Chapter 1190. So Nangong Quan stepped out and took responsibility for everything. He told Hollywood to cause trouble for Springfall, and to stop bothering Hyrule and the Ant Queen too. After all, their actions were a disgrace to Hollywood, and it wasn't worth publicizing to the world. Nangong Quan's actions were acknowledged by his peers, so he tried his best to deal with the Americans. But how could Mo Ting allow Nangong Quan to face a problem like this? Hyrule had evidence, and they had the confidence to announce to the world that The Ant Queen 2 was 100% an original film, and that Hollywood had cheated. Afterwards, Hollywood responded by denying the agency's work and status. In fact, they even announced that they had stolen other people's scripts multiple times and had lost a lawsuit. Everything was clear. This time, it was indeed produced by an Asian person. It broke the norm and shocked everyone. Although a lot of Europeans and Americans did not acknowledge the East's culture and arts, they heard that even Hollywood was going to plagiarize it. This was enough to prove the film's success. As a result, the overseas rights to The Ant Queen 2 sold like hotcakes. Soon, it was announced that the film would be released in theaters all over the world. The foreigners couldn't wait to see the standard of a sci-fi film produced by an Asian. As a result, Tang Ning's fame once again climbed to new heights. In fact, she was invited to many events overseas, but she rejected every single one of them. In fact, she confidently announced to the public, "I will only focus on making films. The work in front of the stage is the job of the actors and celebrities. I hope everyone can give me some personal space and leave the bigger stage for newcomers with potential." After the kidnapping of the Mo family's 2 children, Tang Ning only had one wish. She wanted to spend as much time and energy on her husband and children as possible. At least, she knew what was more important to her. Not long after, Tang Ning heard that Elder Nangong's case had been heard in court. In the end, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison with 1 year of probation. Elder Nangong happily accepted this result. For him, it was a form of release. Just as Elder Nangong was sent to the detention center, Nangong Quan finally received permission to visit him. However, the first thing Elder Mo said was, "This grandson of mine can't even compare to that 3-year-old boy from the Mo family. Forget it. In the future, if little Eggshell really has to choose one of the brothers as her husband, tell her to choose the younger one. He's smart and not the older one. Grandpa, let's go. Don't come again, lest we all feel uncomfortable." The old man was very calm, because he felt that in the end, this was his final destination. When he went out, he really felt uncomfortable all over. In the end, Nangong Quan left with Su Yuran. Just as the old man wished, he would never return. "Although it's cruel, I'll do as Grandpa says. He'll feel better this way." Nangong Quan should be thanking Elder Nangong. In the end, he did not commit a bloody murder, nor did he become a murderous maniac, nor did he become a psychopath that harmed children. This could be considered as leaving the Nangong clan with one last shred of dignity. Following this, the New Year's Fei Tian Awards was about to enter the judging phase. This year, Hyrule was going to submit a list of nominees. When the time came, it would once again be dedicated to the Ant Queen 2. But by this time, Tang Ning and Mo Ting no longer cared about their reputation. That night, Tang Ning and Mo Ting did not attend the award ceremony. Instead, they stayed in the study room and discussed the script for The Ant Queen 3. "We've already written about father and daughter and teacher and student. What should we write about The Ant Queen 3? Tang Ning asked as she leaned comfortably against Mo Ting. "I've already thought about it," Mo Ting replied. "Huh." Tang Ning looked at him in surprise. "I'll write about a broken friendship," Mo Ting replied. "A pair of friends that grew up together. One of them is the smarter one, while the other is the dumber one. The smarter one always asks the dumber one to do things for him. Afterwards, he picks out things that he doesn't want and gives them to the dumber one. He even acts like he's doing everything for them. That's why the dumber one trusts him. Recently, the smarter one decided to take a risk and do something big. But he needed a bait to lure the snake out of its hole. Since he had no other choice, he decided to use the dumber one. The dumber one thought that his smart friend had always treated him well. So he went to a dangerous place. When the smart friend saw that the dumber was willing to do anything, he began to reflect on himself and tried to stop the dumber from throwing his life away. But the dumber one made friends with someone in the same line of work. A passerby exposed the smart friend, so the dumber one began to hate the smart friend. The story will begin with the two of them. After hearing this, Tongning laughed. Although what you said sounds like a tongue twister, I understand what you're trying to say. In fact, I think it's very interesting and can create a lot of twists and turns. President Mo, I think the Ant Queen 3 will be more interesting than the previous two. After all, Mo Ting never wrote superficial things when writing scripts. His content was always deep and explored human nature. The previous two films were relatively simple. They were simply father and daughter, teacher and student. But this time the friends were more complicated. In that case, I'll have to thank you, Mrs. Mo. Your compliment means a lot to me. Tongning lay on Mo Ting's back and placed a kiss on his cheek. So much has happened, I'm tired. Come to the front, Mo Ting ordered. Tongning walked around him, laid down on Mo Ting's lap, and closed her eyes to get some rest. President Mo, I think we should start filming the Ant Queen 3 next spring. In that case, Mrs. Mo, do you still want me to act? Mo Ting asked gently as he lowered his head. Do you want me to play the smart friend or the dumb fool? What do you think about getting Bai Chendong to play the fool? Tongning asked with a smile. He's a fool to begin with. Why would he need to act? Tongning was still sleepy, so she smiled gently. There are plenty of good actors out there. We can take our time to choose. Mo Ting watched as she slowly fell asleep, so he lowered his head and placed a kiss on her lips. In that case, I love you. Can you hear me? Ha! Tongning mumbled as if she didn't hear him clearly. Chapter 1191. A year later, on the set of the Ant Queen 3. This time, Mo Ting's character was indeed a stupid idiot. In fact, this idiot wasn't easy to act. But the smart friend did not choose Bai Chendong because he was about to have his second child. Instead, the smart friend chose an actor that superstar media had scouted out. His name was Li Shengyi, and he was extremely good at acting. The child was now 1 year older. At this time, Tongning often visited Mo Ting on set. She felt that watching him act was a form of enjoyment. But now, she had become his assistant and took care of his daily life. To be honest, Lin Qian's taste was becoming more and more accurate. The actor that she chose was indeed outstanding in all aspects. It was a shame that he had been buried by his previous agency. For some reason, even though his appearance and acting skills were good, he never became popular. He had wasted 10 years of his youth in the industry. So much so that a few strands of white hair had appeared on his head. Now that Tongning was watching him act with Mo Ting, she felt both nervous and excited. Meanwhile, as the assistant director, Bai Junyi was filming the scenes of the other supporting actors. Unlike Mo Ting's team of experienced actors, the young actors' scenes were a lot more unfamiliar. Cut. Your expression isn't right. Retake. Cry harder. Relax, relax. Exaggerate your expression. During her free time, Tongning watched Bai Junyi direct films and couldn't help but smile. It seemed she hadn't misjudged this madman in the past. After transitioning from artistic films, he seemed to have found his true path and had become addicted to sci-fi. His idea itself was very bold, so the resulting effect was more vivid and full of drama. Xiao Man stood behind Tongning as she watched Bai Junyi's scenes. What do you think? Tongning asked. It's artistic, Xiao Man replied. With Bai Junyi, the Ant Queen 3 will be even more perfect, Tongning sighed. I heard that you guys rarely celebrate anniversaries after getting married. Xiao Man changed the topic to Tongning's personal life. How did you know? If I'm guessing, President Mo must be preparing a surprise for you. Xiao Man said as she crossed her arms. Sorry, I can't keep things a secret. Tongning smiled gently as she raised her eyebrows seductively. Because to her, every day was an anniversary, there was no need to celebrate. The couple had been together for so many years and had rarely been apart. To her, this was already the biggest gift. All she wanted was for Mo Ting to be together forever. Even so, Tongning had to admit, after hearing about this from Xiao Man, she was filled with anticipation. But Mo Ting didn't show any signs. especially since in 2 days' time, it would be their wedding anniversary. Mo Ting was busy filming and seemed even busier than before. The couple didn't even speak to each other. It was likely Mo Ting had already forgotten about their wedding anniversary. So, where would he find the time to prepare a surprise? Thinking of this, Tongning smiled. Xiao Man's words had actually sunk in. But she never imagined Mo Ting was in such a rush to film because he wanted to make time. That night, while Tongning was asleep, Mo Ting boarded a plane to France with her. When she woke up, she found herself on the plane. What's going on? Where are we going? Mo Ting hugged her and said gently, "You've been my wife for so many years, but you've never had a proper vacation. But you can't just take me away like this," Tongning said helplessly as she looked at the pajamas on her body. "I've prepared a change of clothes for you. You can change into them when you get off the plane." "Is this the surprise you've prepared for me?" "Huh." Seeing that Mo Ting didn't understand, Tongning shook her head. "It's fine, I'll go get changed." "Go ahead." Mo Ting did not say a word, nor did he tell Tongning where they were going after they got off the plane. Tongning was completely unprepared as she followed behind Mo Ting. After boarding the plane, she had no idea where they were going. It wasn't until she stood in front of the building that she realized what was happening. This was the place where she stepped onto the international runway for the first time as a model. The place where she took off. At the time, she was only in her early 20s. "Why are you here?" "To watch the show," Mo Ting replied before he led her into the runway. Mo Ting asked as he led her into the runway. "I've booked the entire venue and prepared a set of clothes for you. I want to see you walk again. But I've already forgotten how to walk." "It's a natural thing, how could I forget?" Mo Ting said as he turned around and led her backstage to hand her over to the long-awaited fashion designer. "Mrs. Mo, I've been waiting for you." Tongning had no idea what Mo Ting was planning. She instinctively allowed the designer to take her measurements. Afterwards, the designer disappeared from the backstage. It seemed she was going to tweak the measurements. A few minutes later, she reappeared with a set of clothes. With one glance, Tongning was stunned by the clothes. Because to Tongning it wasn't just a set of clothes. It was the battle robe that she had worn many years ago. The silver fishtail dress that shone brightly belonged to the supermodel from many years ago. "Shall we put it on?" the designer asked. "I'm sure, even after many years, you will still look beautiful in this dress. Can you believe it? This dress is the same dress that you wore many years ago." Tongning was surprised by the designer's words. President Mo searched for it for a long time before he found it. More than 10 years? Tongning suddenly couldn't remember. But she felt like she had suddenly returned to her younger self. "Are you ready? Let's go on stage." Dressed in a long dress, Tongning's supermodel aura once again returned to her body. She simply nodded her head. Just like the time when she was young and inexperienced, she used her steps to conquer the audience. But this time, Mo Ting was the only one in the entire venue. Mo Ting looked at her from afar. He imagined she was still the same young and inexperienced girl. He imagined she once carried hope onto the stage. As the music began to play, Tongning's confidence soared. Afterwards, her pose was exactly the same as it was many years ago. Not long after, Mo Ting stood up and walked onto the runway. He wrapped his arms around Tongning tightly, not leaving a single gap between them. "Why did you arrange it like this?" "I wanted to see what you looked like before you met me." Mo Ting replied gently. "I wanted to see how beautiful you looked when you first stepped onto the international stage. That was nothing. Because after I met you, I finally found the real me." Tongning kissed him as the couple stood on the runway affectionately. "In the past, I always wanted to be worthy of you, so I worked hard and risked my life. Over the years, I kept asking myself if I was worthy of you." Afterwards, Mo Ting gave her an affirmative answer. "Of course, you are my queen." Chapter 1192. Recently, Qianlan had been set up on a blind date by a colleague. Her partner was a middle school physics teacher from the building next door. He was a young man in his early 20s called Mo Zichen. Mo Zichen was taller than a model, and had a face that was more exquisite than a celebrity. But everyone said that he came from a poor family. Otherwise, why would he always wear a black suit and a pair of unassuming black-rimmed glasses? Qianlan had met this man before. He was indeed handsome, but his behavior was unappealing. But because of her colleagues' matchmaking, she ended up meeting this man. To be honest, the first impression that she gave others was terrible. But Qianlan was surprisingly satisfied. His hands were delicate and pleasing to the eye, but he was the type of person that didn't talk much. Plus, he appeared to be very frugal. Qianlan was quite surprised that a man his age would be frugal. Miss Qian, you are the first person that has sat next to me for 5 minutes without saying a word without leaving angrily. Mo Zichen laughed. His facial features were so exquisite that they could be described as perfect. You are also the first man that I know that is so frugal in his early 20s. Qianlan laughed. Hello, I am Mo Zichen, a middle school physics teacher. My name is Qianlan. I am an English teacher at the primary school. Afterwards, the couple fell silent again. But this silence wasn't awkward. After all, Qianlan was famous for being a weirdo. She didn't like flashy men, and especially disliked men that boasted about themselves. But Mo Zichen didn't give off the impression that he was greasy at all. In fact, he gave off a cold and aloof vibe, like he was trying to make people feel like he didn't exist. Qianlan liked to keep a low profile like this. I'm not sure. Will we have a chance to meet up again? Qianlan asked. Sure. I'm always free when I don't have class. The two men's first meeting was so dull that it made them want to sleep. Because after Mo Zichen left, Mo Zichen's friend, who had been observing them from the shadows, Yandashi approached Qianlan and said, This man is too boring. Forget it, we'll introduce you to someone else. It's such a waste of good looks. No, I'm interested in him. Qianlan laughed. What? Her friend yelled in surprise. Qianlan, is there something wrong with your brain? I'm not begging you to find a tall, rich and handsome man, but at least a normal person, right? Look at Mo Zichen. From the beginning to the end, he's been acting like a weirdo. What do you like about him? You have to think this through, my dear mayor's daughter. Although you didn't rely on your family's connections, you can't be so poor. Look at your sister. She married a PhD from MIT, and is now opening a research institute. Are you going to lose to her? There are many high-quality resources in the school. It's just that you didn't reveal your identity. Otherwise, a lot of men would come to you. Qianlan pushed her friend's hand away and smiled. As long as I like it, then that's enough. Who cares what others say? I really don't understand you. Well, since you like it, I'll get his number for you. You don't have to thank me. Just like that, Qianlan received Mo Zichen's phone number. But she did not dare to contact him because she was afraid that he would feel offended. She was, after all, a woman. Sometimes she didn't want to take the initiative. After returning home, a maid approached her and asked, Second miss, the big miss and madam are waiting for you. Okay. Qianlan changed into slippers, walked over to the dining table and sat down at her seat. Qianlan, your father has found a few young and handsome men for you. When will you meet them? Mother Qian asked with a smile. Mom, I want to find them myself. It's not that I don't trust your taste. Look at your sister, she's found such a good husband. Your father and I are counting on someone to take care of our little princess. Qianlan smiled awkwardly and did not say a word. She did not even look at her sister. Soon her so-called brother-in-law came downstairs. Qianlan timidly greeted him as her brother-in-law, before she left the dining table. This child is getting more and more impolite. Mom, it's fine. The man comforted Mother Qian before he sat down beside his wife. This man was called Chuanhao. He used to be Qianlan Sr., and they had a relationship for 2 years. But Su Chuanhao ended up going overseas, and when he returned he was her brother-in-law. From that moment onwards, Qianlan no longer had any expectations for men. She liked men that were down-to-earth and low-profile, like Mo Zichen. It seemed, Su Chuanhao felt that her sister was more mature and successful than her. That night, Su Chuanhao knocked on Qianlan's door, and entered her room. He looked at her and said earnestly, I'm doing this for your own good. I hope you can interact with more good men. If I find a good man, I'm sure brother-in-law will feel bad. Qianlan laughed. If there's nothing else, brother-in-law can leave. I still need to prepare for class. Su Chuanhao had no choice but to leave Qianlan's room. The reason why Qianlan's sister wasn't jealous was because she knew that Su Chuanhao went to Qianlan's room to show off. Qianlan would never find a better husband than Su Chuanhao. At that moment, Qianlan suddenly had the urge to send him a message. She pulled out her phone and hesitated for a long time before she finally sent him a message. It was a simple message. This is Qianlan. Are you asleep? When Mo Zichen received this message, he was having dinner at home. His brother had just returned home from the military. Mo Zishi had enrolled in a military university and was currently training at the military base. Zichen, you sure know how to create trouble. Hai Rue is so big, yet you're not going to help your father out. You're just a young master of a noble family, yet you're a teacher. Compared to Mo Zichen's tall and slender body, Mo Zishi was a lot more muscular. He had tanned from working at the military base and looked unusually healthy. Big brother, brother two, stop chatting. Come in and help mommy with the groceries. Mo Zian yelled from the kitchen. Coming. Mo Zishi chuckled as he turned around and headed into the kitchen. How long had it been since he'd been home? Mo Zichen wasn't sure either. It had been about 5 years, seeing his parents as elegant as ever. Mo Zichen felt like he had only been away for 5 days. Mo Ting was still the same, elegant and imposing. He was great at everything, but he hated it when the 3 siblings created too much trouble for Tongning. After all, he was known to be a wife slave. On the other hand, Tongning was still the same. Her long legs were still as beautiful as before. Zichen, it's about time for you to come home, Tongning said to Mo Zichen. Mo Zichen had always been smarter than most people from a young age. As a result, he had his own opinions. Many years ago, he left home to experience life on his own. But no one knew that he was the son of the big boss of the entertainment industry and the mother of science, Tongning. Chapter 1193. Mo Zichen did not say a word. He simply hugged Tongning. Mommy, I miss you a lot. If you miss me, then come back to visit me and your father often, Tongning instructed. If I don't see you all year round, how am I supposed to feel at ease? From now on, report to your mother once a month, Mo Ting ordered. Okay, Dad. Brother two, you're so useless. Why are you so obsessed with being a physics teacher? Mo Zian had inherited her parents' good genes. Not only was she pretty, she also had long legs. I think a normal life like that is quite good, Mo Zichen replied. Plus, I've been thinking about getting a girlfriend lately. When the time comes, I'll bring her home for you guys to see. Brother two, let me tell you, there aren't many people in Beijing that are compatible with a family like ours, Mo Zian humphed. If you want to be my sister-in-law, you'll need our entire family's approval. You're smart. Mo Zichen laughed as he patted Mo Zian on the head. Brother two, you're the smartest. Look at me, I never ask big brother for help. He'll just use his fists. But you're different. You need to protect me, Mo Zian said as she placed her head on Mo Zichen's shoulder. Okay. By the way, don't you want Sister Kai? Sister Kai likes you the most. The Sister Kai that Mo Zian mentioned was the old little eggshell, Nangong Kai. After all these years, she had always liked the 2 brothers, but Mo Zichen had always avoided her. Firstly, he didn't like them, and secondly, he knew that Mo Zishi and Big Brother both liked Nangong Kai. He didn't want to compete with Big Brother. If I get a chance in the future, I'll bring my girlfriend home so you can meet her. What do you mean by if I get a chance? That's a must. Mo Zichen had mixed feelings during the meal. But a moment later he received a phone call. As soon as Mo Zian saw him pull out his phone, she scoffed. Why are you so busy as a teacher these days? Dad, Mom. That's enough, you guys eat. I'll walk him out, Tongning said as she stood up and walked Mo Zichen to the front door. Seeing how the tiny tot from before had grown up, Tongning sighed. Zichen, others may not know, but you can't hide it from Mom. Mommy won't ask about your real identity, but you must promise me to be careful. My son can't be lost for no reason. Mo Zichen did not say a word. He simply hugged his mother. I know, Mommy. Go. A man's ambition is to travel the world. Tongning had said a long time ago that she wasn't going to force the kids to choose a career or choose a partner. As long as they felt comfortable, it was fine. But Emo Zichin. Thinking of this, she let out a sigh. Emo Zichin had always been smart and quick-witted since he was young. She didn't believe that Emo Zichin would waste his talent and become a physics teacher. As expected, after leaving Hyatt Regency, Emo Zichin took off his glasses, rode his motorcycle from his apartment, and headed straight for the meeting place. Being a physics teacher was just a cover. His real identity was a spy from the National Security Agency. Because he was too smart, he was recruited into the state security when he was still in university. He worked as a logistics officer, and then as an intelligence officer. Physics teacher was just a cover for his identity. It made it easier for him to go out and do field work at any time. The mission that he received today was to determine if a professor from a certain university was doing sensitive work that could threaten national security. The entire family had no idea that he worked for the National Security Agency, because he had signed a confidentiality agreement. But how could someone as sensitive as Tongning not notice that her son was hiding something? The Emo Zichin that was on a mission was a completely different person. He wore a leather jacket and rode a motorcycle, looking extremely manly. But when it came to fighting skills, even Emo Zishi from a military school was no match for him. After all, he was too smart. After completing his mission, he returned to his apartment to get changed and returned to school. Everything was perfect. At this time, he finally saw the message that Qianlan had sent him. As an intelligence officer, he had many identities and a lot of skills that allowed him to trace back 18 generations of Qianlan's family. But he did not do so. Perhaps, it was because he felt like there was a mystery around Qianlan that he couldn't understand. So he simply replied, "I'm asleep." "How did you reply to messages when you were asleep?" Qianlan couldn't help but laugh. "There's a movie tomorrow night. Are you free? I've looked at your schedule. You don't have any classes." As you said. I don't have any classes. So, I'll leave it up to you." How could two rather boring people find each other interesting? This was also a very strange experience. The next night, Emo Zichin did not wear a black suit. Instead, he wore a brown jacket. This made Qianlan feel extremely mesmerized by him. "It's a shame that you're not a model." Emo Ting and Tongning had strong genes, so Emo Zichin naturally inherited their good tradition. "But, I have a feeling that you look a lot like a famous person." "Is that so?" Emo Zichin replied vaguely. He was simply a Terminator. But, Qianlan did not look down on him. She simply smiled. "Do you like to watch detective films?" "They're not bad," Emo Zichin replied. "I've seen a few. But they were all nonsense." "That's good. I was just worried that you wouldn't like them." Qianlan gave in to Emo Zichin's feelings. Emo Zichin smiled and shook his head. Like this, the two women entered the theater side by side and sat peacefully together. From time to time, Qianlan would turn her head to look at Emo Zichin. Emo Zichin's side profile was even more charming than his front profile. "You seem to be cold and indifferent all the time. You seem to be very restrained in everything." "Perhaps it's because I'm not used to interacting with the opposite sex," Emo Zichin explained. "Do you think I'm boring?" "Actually, I'm also a boring person," Emo Zichin replied. "The students love my classes, but they don't like to listen to me. All they like to do is stare at me. That's because you're good-looking." Qianlan couldn't help but laugh. She could feel Emo Zichin's cute side. "Let's keep in touch from now on. I actually quite like you as a friend. It's rare for someone to like me." Emo Zichin was speaking the truth. Because of his job as a secret, he didn't have much contact with others. As a result, he was cold towards everything, so he didn't have any friends. Was Qianlan an exception? For some reason, he didn't dislike Qianlan. It was a strange feeling. A smart person's brain was useful and a smart person's eyes were naturally unique. This was something that he never doubted himself. Chapter 1194. Because someone was going on a date, Qianlan started to dress up more than before. This small change caught the attention of her family. So Mother Qian couldn't help but ask her daughter, "Is Qianlan dating someone?" She's been putting on makeup recently. Mom, I'm not sure. Qianlan's sister shook her head. You need to take care of your sister and keep an eye on her. With a family like ours, what if she marries a poor man? Mother Qian instructed. Okay, Mom, I'll keep an eye on Qianlan. Qianhui, I don't want anything else. I just hope that Qianlan can find a good man. That way, even if your father and I go to hell right now, we can rest in peace. Qianhui smiled and comforted her mother. Mom, don't worry, Qianlan will definitely find her happiness. Secretly follow her a few times. If the other party is too bad, immediately make a move. You can't let them develop a deep relationship. Qianhui was helpless. She couldn't stand her mother's nagging. Mom, I know what to do. Previously, when Qianlan gave up her job and insisted on becoming a teacher, her family was against it. But it was just a job, so it didn't matter if she did it or not. But when it came to life, it wasn't up to her to decide. Qianlan had no idea that her family was watching her every move. But she was certain that the type of man she liked was Mo Zichen. Although Qianlan grew up in an official's household, she was a mature person. Plus, she had always been assertive and knew what she wanted and what she rejected. So, she didn't want to miss out on Mo Zichen. Whether it was her life or her partner. As long as she came across something she wanted, she was going to give it a try. Of course, if Mo Zichen didn't like her, it would be a different story. As they were both teachers, their time was limited. Plus, there was a cinema near the school. So Qianlan used this as an excuse to invite Mo Zichen out. Although it was a lame excuse, Mo Zichen patiently agreed. The couple agreed to watch a second screening after work. But Qianlan had no idea that the Qian family had already sent someone to follow her. Mo Zichen knew from the start that the person's tracking skills weren't even as good as the paparazzi, so it was obvious how amateurish they were. However, Mo Zichen pretended not to know. There haven't been any good movies recently, but this one is really popular, so I bought the tickets, Qianlan said as she handed the tickets to Mo Zichen. As soon as Mo Zichen saw the name of the film, he couldn't help but laugh. A production of Hai Rui. Last time, I saw that you didn't seem to like detective type, so this time let's watch sci-fi. Alright. Mo Zichen didn't bat an eyelid from the beginning to the end. Or it could be said that this was his professional ethics as an intelligence officer. Do you have any special hobbies after work? For example, sports? Or reading books? I like to sleep. He went to class during the day and carried out missions at night. He was already very tired, so whenever he had some free time, he would choose to catch up on sleep. It's fine, I'm quite a boring person too, Qianlan laughed. From an outsider's point of view, no matter how they looked at it, there wouldn't be any sparks between the two. But Qianlan wanted to try it out with Mo Zichen. The film is about to start. Let's go in, Mo Zichen suggested. He was a little annoyed by the guy that was secretly taking photos of them. Qianlan nodded her head and carried a bag of popcorn into the theater with Mo Zichen. They then sat down in the theater. At this time, the person that was secretly taking photos of Qianlan had already delivered them to Qianhui. As soon as Qianhui saw Mo Zichen, she immediately furrowed her brows. This guy looks good, but he definitely doesn't come from a good family. One look and you can tell that he's a gigolo. So she immediately sent someone to investigate Mo Zichen. But apart from being a normal teacher, Mo Zichen's parents were all unknown. In other words, Mo Zichen was a loser that didn't even have parents and was probably a shameful person. How could someone with a background like that be good enough for Qianlan? Because of this, Qianhui obtained Mo Zichen's contact details from the school. Just like her mother said, before Qianlan and Mo Zichen developed any deep feelings for each other, it was time to nip this in the bud. Mo Zichen never expected that the person was from the Qian family, and that they would personally come looking for him the next day. But by the time he and Qianlan finished watching the film, the person had already disappeared. Mr. Mo? You can call me Zichen, Mo Zichen replied. I wanted to ask you about your views on relationships. Qianlan's hint was obvious enough, but Mo Zichen did not respond immediately. Seeing this, Qianlan smiled awkwardly. I'm sorry, I was too impatient. No, you're quite cute like this, Mo Zichen laughed. I don't have much of an opinion on relationships. Everything depends on fate. Hirue's film was really good. Thank you for today. Let's meet again another day. Mo Zichen did not show any obvious intentions, but he did not reject her goodwill either. But Qianlan reflected on herself and wondered if she had been too proactive. I'll take you home. No need, my home is nearby, Qianlan rejected. You must be tired from the day. Go home and get some rest. Okay, send me a message when you get home. Mo Zichen did not insist. He seemed to treat everyone like a gentleman, as if he was deliberately keeping his distance. Qianlan was a little disappointed, but she did not show it on her face. She was afraid that her family would see this and object. Afterwards, the couple returned home. But, after Mo Zichen changed his clothes, he disappeared into the night sky. He had no choice but to act on instinct. Because of this, his friend laughed at him. After joining this stupid organization, you can't even tell the truth when you're flirting with a girl. You must be tired. If you don't like her, you should have just rejected her. Why do you have to be so indifferent? If it was someone else, they would have been scared off a long time ago. But this time it's different, Mo Zichen shrugged. Fuck, it turns out that there are actually people in this world that like your boredom. Don't say that. I'm actually a man of character, Mo Zichen said before he put on a pair of black gloves. Qianlan had a feeling that Mo Zichen didn't like her, but Mo Zichen did not make it clear. This made her quite frustrated. By the time she returned home, her family was already asleep, so Qianlan didn't have to explain herself. But she had no idea that her family already knew that she was in contact with a poor rascal. Chapter 1195. The next day, while Qianlan had class and Mo Zichen didn't, Qianhui sent someone to invite Mo Zichen outside. To highlight her identity, Qianhui deliberately dressed herself up, so that Mo Zichen would back off when he found out about her identity. Mo Zichen thought about the stalking from yesterday. The moment he saw Qianhui, he understood her intentions. Mr. Mo, please sit. Qianhui gestured to Mo Zichen with her chin as she removed her sunglasses and placed them on the table. My name is Qianhui. I'm Qianlan's sister. Hello, Miss Qian. Mo Zichen sat down across from her. I asked you out because I found out that you and my sister have been interacting closely recently. So, I wanted to ask Mr. Mo how far your relationship has progressed. This seems to be a personal question of mine, right? Mo Zichen replied with a smile. Let me put it this way, no matter how far you've progressed, please stop immediately, because my sister Qianlan doesn't come from an ordinary background. I'm sure Mr. Mo understands what I'm trying to say. After Qianhui finished speaking, she took out an envelope from her purse. This is a small gift from me. I hope you can accept it to make up for my rashness today. Mo Zichen looked at the envelope on the table and couldn't help but laugh. Miss Qian sure is generous. But I don't really need it. You think it's too little? I don't like people interfering in my private affairs. Miss Qian, please leave. Mo Zichen directly expressed his attitude. Mr. Mo, did you already know about Qianlan's identity? Is that why you're approaching me with ulterior motives? I don't know what throne your Qian family has, but I really don't like people interfering in my private affairs. Today, even if it wasn't you or someone else, I would still say the same thing. Mo Zichen couldn't help but laugh. To prevent him from getting close to Qianlan, the Qian family actually thought of using money to solve the problem. Qianhui returned in disappointment. She originally thought she could get rid of this poor man with a simple gesture. But it seemed he had his eyes on Qianlan's identity and wanted to climb up the social ladder. How could Qianlan fall for a man like this? He doesn't know when to advance or retreat. Qianlan had no idea that Qianhui had looked for Mo Zichen. Meanwhile, Mo Zichen simply treated it as a joke and did not mention it to Qianlan. However, when he was on a mission that night, he was once again mocked by his colleagues. Ha ha ha, think about our young master Mo, the beloved son of Tongning and Mo Ting. His family is as rich as a country, yet someone threw money at his face, ha ha ha. I'll make you laugh to death. Mo Zichen said helplessly. You should have thrown $1 million check back. Are you kidding me? Our young master Mo may lack everything but money. That family doesn't know your identity. If they did, their eyes would probably pop out of their sockets. It doesn't matter. Emo Zichen didn't care at all. Don't you want to know what the Qian family does? What else can we do? I didn't think about it before, but when Qian Hui came to look for me today, I realized it. You and I both know what the surname of the new leader is. Emo Zichen replied indifferently. Even so, I still have the same attitude. No one can interfere with my private affairs. Where's your mother? Except for my mother. Emo Zichen replied firmly. Not only was Tongning Emo Ting's flesh and blood, but she was also Emo Zichen's. To be honest, I don't think you and Qianlan are a good match. Forget it. Stop talking nonsense and get to work. Emo Zichen did not express too much about Qianlan's matter, so no one knew what he was thinking. That day after class, Qianlan sent Emo Zichen a message, but he did not reply. Qianlan returned home, but to her surprise, she was greeted with a family meeting. Qianlan, come here. Mother Qian ordered in a strict tone. Mom, what's wrong? Today, I asked your sister to look for someone, but she came back disappointed, Mother Qian said. Who did she look for? You're the mayor's daughter. How could you like those poor men? Qian Hui turned and looked at Qianlan. Qianlan, would you be happy if your entire family was laughed at? After hearing this, Qianlan had a bad feeling. No wonder Emo Zichen did not respond to her message. It turned out, her family had already looked for him. With this thought, Qianlan immediately exploded. I'm not related to him in any way. Why did you look for him? Of course we're making a stand. The Qian family can't possibly find a poor son-in-law. Qian Hui replied loudly. Qian Hui replied loudly. You have to understand that you are a member of the Qian clan. You have the responsibility to protect the Qian clan's reputation. Mom, do you think so too? Do you also think that my sister is right to interfere in my private affairs? Don't blame your sister. I asked her to do this. Mother Qian humphed. Qianlan, I've introduced you to so many talented young men. You should at least take a liking to one of them. Go look for a physics teacher. I'm really disappointed in you. Me too. Qianlan said in disbelief as she stormed out the door. She never imagined that her family would interfere in her private affairs, disrespect her life and humiliate Emo Zichen because of her. With this thought, Qianlan cried as she left. But she didn't know where to go. Perhaps she should apologize to Emo Zichen. If the Qian family did something like this, how could she have the face to ask Emo Zichen out for a meeting? So, Qianlan pulled out her phone and gave her friend a phone call. This was the friend that introduced her to Emo Zichen. Afterwards, she found Emo Zichen's address from her friend. Although she knew that it wasn't convenient to look for Emo Zichen like this, she felt that if she didn't explain things to him right now, she would feel terrible. Because of this, she went to Emo Zichen's home. But after ringing the doorbell for a long time, Emo Zichen did not open the door. Was he not home? It was already so late. Where could he be? By the time Emo Zichen finished his mission, it was already 1 a.m. As he returned home, he noticed a person squatting on the steps. Emo Zichen took a closer look and realized it was Qianlan. Why are you waiting here? Emo Zichen immediately ran over and placed a jacket on Qianlan's body. Qianlan stood up and looked at Emo Zichen with a pained expression. I'm here to apologize on behalf of my family. You don't need to. It's not safe for a girl to be out at this late hour. Emo Zichen replied in an indifferent tone. But Emo Zichen's indifferent attitude made Qianlan feel bad. Don't you feel insulted at all? Your family is doing this for your own good. From their point of view, they're not wrong. What about from your point of view? Qianlan asked. Don't do something like this again. News of women being murdered is everywhere. You shouldn't be out on your own. Emo Zichen said in a slightly heavier tone. It doesn't matter to you, does it? Chapter 1196. Qianlan, you don't need to come all the way here to explain things to me. I'm not angry, Emo Zichen replied. Plus, family is indeed more important to me. You shouldn't get into a fight with your parents because of someone you don't know well. As soon as Emo Zichen said this, Qianlan felt even worse. because every word that he said made it seem like he was a bystander. He never imagined that a woman like her had waited for so long, because she was afraid that he would be angry. I understand, Qianlan mumbled. I'm glad you're not angry. I'm going to leave now. Thank you for the jacket. I'll walk you out. No need, Qianlan said before she left. After speaking, Qianlan quickly walked away. However, after taking 2 steps, she suddenly stopped and turned around to look at Mo Zichen. I originally thought that I would be different in your heart. But in the end, I'm no different than anyone else. Sorry. Qianlan shook her head. There was nothing to apologize for. Some people were only found out after trying. She originally thought that because of their identities, she could close the gap between them. But if Mo Zichen wasn't interested in her, then no matter how hard she tried, it would be a waste of effort. Forget it, stop embarrassing yourself. After the drama, Qianlan returned home to find Mother Qian waiting for her in the living room. Seeing that her daughter was in a daze, Mother Qian's heart ached. Lan Er, can't you stop your mother from worrying? What's so good about a poor kid like him? If you're going to interfere with everything in my life, then I might as well die. Qianlan couldn't stand the fact that her life was being controlled by her family. Mom, if you don't believe me, you can try me. After speaking, Qianlan rubbed her nose. You don't need to worry, I won't be seeing Mo Zichen anymore, because he doesn't even like me. After speaking, Qianlan weakly returned to her room and collapsed onto her bed. She didn't understand why she was born into a family like this, and why she had such controlling parents. All she wanted was a normal relationship and a normal life. The next day, Qianlan and Mo Zichen ran into each other in the school cafeteria. This was something that had never happened before. The two of them tacitly avoided each other's eyes and found a place to sit down and eat. Seeing the awkwardness between Qianlan and Mo Zichen's friend guessed the ending between the two. So she picked up her tray and sat down opposite Qianlan comfortingly. I told you a long time ago that you guys don't walk the same path. Look at how awkward you've become. I still like him, but he doesn't like me, Qianlan replied. What did you say? You mean he dumped you? His friend was furious. This poor boy doesn't know what's good for him. Doesn't he know that he has missed out on the mayor's daughter? That's because you didn't know that my sister brought money to humiliate him, Qianlan sneered. No wonder. Mo Zichen's friend understood, because his father-in-law's family was too aggressive. What do you plan to do now? You cried a lot last night, right? His eyes are still swollen. I don't know either. Qianlan shook her head. Perhaps I should believe in fate. I should listen to my parents, go on a blind date, get married and never return to that family again. Does that mean you've decided to give up on Mo Zichen? Qianlan looked at Mo Zichen from afar as her heart ached. But as long as Mo Zichen showed even the slightest bit of love, she would persist until the end. But she had no idea how difficult it was for Mo Zichen. As an intelligence officer, he had signed a confidentiality agreement that no one was allowed to reveal his identity. So to Qianlan, he was like a partner that could disappear at any time. What was the point of having a partner like that? To make herself forget, Qianlan immersed herself in work. But for some reason, after explaining things to Mo Zichen, she became more concerned about his movements. This was how the human heart worked. The more people disliked you, the more you wanted them. Meanwhile, Mo Zichen's life continued as usual. He attended classes during the day, carried out missions at night, and slept whenever he had free time. As for Qianlan's phone number, it had been a long time since he last contacted her. Perhaps she would soon forget about this unhappy time. A while later, Nangong Kai arrived at the university. Mo Zichen had just finished class. As soon as he saw a familiar face, he smiled. Why did you suddenly come looking for me? I was passing by, so I dropped by. Aren't you going to treat me to lunch? Nangong Kai laughed. She was no longer the little eggshell from before. The Nangong Kai in front of him had grown into a natural and unrestrained person. Let's go. Mo Zichen put away his textbooks and walked along the campus with Nangong Kai. You disappeared for 5 years. Where have you been during that time? Can I not ask you anything? Mo Zichen asked. I don't want to talk about the past. I know. I'm afraid no one can tell what you're thinking, Nangong Kai replied, even though there was a hint of disappointment in her eyes. The two chatted and laughed as they walked out of the school. But they soon became the topic of conversation for many of the teachers. After all, Mo Zichen didn't have a strong background. How did he know someone that was like an heiress? It was also around this time that Qianlong heard that Mo Zichen left the university with a long-legged beauty. For some reason, she couldn't help but feel a little jealous. It turned out, Mo Zichen had better options even if he didn't accept her. Of course, she had only heard about them and never expected to actually meet them. After the two ate lunch, Nangong Kai sent Mo Zichen back to school. Can I visit you more often from now on? As long as I'm here, you're welcome. Nangong Kai nodded her head in satisfaction and hugged Mo Zichen. I miss you and your brother a lot. You can visit him at the military base. Mo Zichen simply stood there without moving and did not respond. But Nangong Kai was already used to it. Plus, she knew that Mo Zichen didn't have any romantic feelings for her. Qianlong went to the secondary school to get some information, and bumped into Mo Zichen and Nangong Kai together. The two looked very close, like they had known each other for a long time. This made Qianlong feel hurt. But Nangong Kai immediately noticed her unusual gaze. So she laughed. Are you related to that female teacher? Mo Zichen laughed. Did you notice? It's written all over your face. What? Did you make her sad? Nangong Kai asked in amusement. Chapter 1197. After hearing this, Mo Zichen said to Nangong Kai, Sister Kai, in my heart, I've always treated you as my sister. No matter what, I'll always make my stand clear. I know. I just think that if you really like her, you shouldn't make her sad. I'm sad, but I'll only be satisfied if someone is happy, Nangong Kai said to Mo Zichen. Alright, you still have class in the afternoon, so I'll be leaving first. Mo Zichen nodded his head, but he still felt a little strange seeing Qianlong in front of him. Tonight he was on a mission alone, so it took him a long time to get home. It wasn't until 3 a.m. that he finally returned home. But he saw the same person waiting for him at the same place. You're back? Qianlong looked at Mo Zichen and smiled. I don't know why, but I feel like you're different during the day and at night. As Mo Zichen approached Qianlong, he immediately smelled the pungent smell of alcohol. So his expression immediately turned sour. This woman is a little too brave. How dare she drink and sit here on her own? No one dares to come near me. I brought pepper spray with me, Qianlong said in a daze. Mo Zichen had no choice but to help her home. He then took her into the bathroom and helped her wash her face. Are you awake? After being stimulated by the cold water, Qianlong's mind cleared up. When she realized she was sitting on the edge of the bathtub, her face turned red and she felt embarrassed. I'm sorry, I've embarrassed myself in front of you. You're probably sick of me. You drown your sorrows in alcohol when you're heartbroken, and you even came to the man's house. After speaking, Qianlong stood up and held onto the wall to leave. But she accidentally tripped on the carpet and fell to the ground. Mo Zichen tried to help her up, but she refused. I just feel like I'm a failure. I can't control my own life. Mo Zichen knew that Qianlong was a girl that wanted to live a normal life. She didn't like her parents interfering with her life. You must think I'm terrible. Mo Zichen did not say a word because he didn't know what to say. Qianlong couldn't hold it in any longer, so she burst into tears. Even if she was in a sorry state, she had to accept it. Mo Zichen looked at the kind-hearted girl from behind and couldn't help but stroke her head from behind. It's different. Huh. Qianlong didn't know how to react. Understand it yourself. After speaking, Mo Zichen helped her sit on the sofa in the living room. Qianlong tried her best to understand what Mo Zichen meant. But because of the alcohol, her brain was a little muddled, so she couldn't remember. This is my first time drinking. I should be able to recall it. Wait. Mo Zichen couldn't help but laugh. But, by the time he retrieved a blanket from the bedroom, Qianlong had already fallen asleep on the sofa. Mo Zichen didn't move her anymore. Instead, he gave her another pillow so that she could sleep comfortably on the sofa. Apart from her background, Qianlan was very ordinary in every other aspect. She was so ordinary that even a random actress in the entertainment industry would be better than her. However, it was this ordinariness that made Mo Zichen feel at ease. Perhaps it was because as an intelligence officer, what he hoped for the most was such an ordinary life. He was very restrained, especially when it came to relationships. Even when it came to his family, he was willing to not appear in front of them for 5 years, so that Tongning wouldn't worry about him. He didn't want to hurt anyone because as an intelligence officer, he didn't have the right to be ordinary. But now that he had met her, what could he do? As Mo Zichen looked down at Qianlan sleeping on the sofa, he couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. The next morning, Qianlan woke up at Mo Zichen's home. If she was 70% clear-headed the previous night, then as she thought back to what happened, her face began to burn. "You're awake? Go wash up, it's time for breakfast." As Qianlan looked at Mo Zichen, who was holding a piece of toast, she suddenly remembered that Mo Zichen seemed to have said something important the night before. But she couldn't remember a single word. So as soon as they sat down at the dining table, she asked Mo Zichen, did you say something important to me last night?" "Last night I said it's different," Mo Zichen repeated patiently. After hearing this, Qianlan finally understood what Mo Zichen meant. After all, she had previously said something to Mo Zichen. "I originally thought that I would be different in your heart. But in the end, I'm no different than anyone else." So, did Mo Zichen's reply mean that he was giving her an answer? Then Mo Zichen put down the glass of milk in his hand, adjusted his glasses and said to Qianlan, "Qianlan, the last time you came looking for me, what time did I return home?" "Around 1 a.m. What about last night?" Mo Zichen asked. "Around 3 a.m. So don't you have any questions?" Qianlan shook her head. She was curious, but she was certain that Mo Zichen didn't go to a nightclub, nor did he look like he was looking for a woman. After all, his scent was the answer. There was no trace of impurity on his body. "I won't say anything because I have nothing to say. But I need to tell you that this situation will continue for a long time. What are you going to do?" Mo Zichen asked. "Do you have a special reason?" Qianlan guessed. "If that's the case, you don't need to say anything. I won't mind. If you accept this, I think we can try being together," Mo Zichen said confidently. "Really?" "Yes. In case some drunkard barges into my home again," Mo Zichen said before he handed the glass of milk to Qianlan. "Don't worry about my parents. Even if I have to risk my life, I won't listen to their arrangements. I will only choose what I want." "Actually, there's no need to argue with your parents," Mo Zichen said with a hidden meaning. "Are you trying to say that family is more important than a partner?" "What I want to say is that family and partner don't have to be opposing. I will make sure your parents are satisfied with me." "How are you going to do that?" Qianlan was curious. Was he going to change his background? "Hurry and go to class after breakfast. By the way, you didn't come home last night. Aren't you afraid that your family will be worried?" Mo Zichen reminded. "Give your mother a phone call. No matter how angry she is still your mother." "Okay," Qianlan nodded. However, she was still thinking about how to communicate with her family. She truly liked Mo Zichen. No matter what his background was, she would accept it. Her sister was already married to a big shot, so was there a need to make things difficult for her? Meanwhile, Mo Zichen looked at Qianlan's hesitation and couldn't help but laugh. This silly woman. Chapter 1198. Qianlan didn't return home that night. She planned to return to school first before returning home to explain herself. But as soon as she returned, the principal was waiting for her. The principal was sitting in front of her desk. As soon as he saw her, he said to her, "Qianlan, pack your things and go home." "Principal?" Qianlan furrowed her brows. She didn't understand what was happening. Look, I didn't know you were the mayor's second miss either. I apologize for offending you in the past." After hearing the principal's words, Qianlan finally understood what he meant. It seemed the Qian family had already come over to greet her. "Principal, actually. Go ahead, don't make things difficult for us." The principal waved his hand, gesturing for Qianlan to stop resisting. The Qian family had already arrived and explained everything. It seemed as the second miss, she wouldn't be able to stay at school anymore. Qianlan was furious, but she couldn't pressure the principal any further. So she had no choice but to pack her luggage and leave. She had only been gone for one night. Yet the Qian family reacted in such a way. So, what if she was determined to follow Emozichin? Qianlan carried her luggage home angrily. But as soon as she arrived home, she found Mother Qian sitting on the sofa watching TV. "You're back? Mom, what happened at school?" Qianlan asked as she put down her luggage. "You didn't return home last night. Did you fool around with that rascal who teaches physics?" Mother Qian turned and looked at Qianlan. "Since you won't learn your lesson, then I'll have to help you cut through the mess." After hearing this, Qianlan went crazy. "In that case, I won't be your daughter anymore. Is that okay?" Qianlan threw her luggage aside. "Just pretend you don't have a daughter like me. I don't want to return to the Qian family anymore." "What are you talking about?" "Mom, I'm warning you one last time. If you continue to disrespect my life, I don't know what I'll do." After speaking, Qianlan turned around and ran out of the Qian family home without looking back. Mother Qian took a deep breath. She felt like her daughter was too immature. Parents always made plans for their children, so why didn't Qianlan understand their efforts? Just like that, Qianlan ran out and didn't know where to go, so she simply wandered around the streets. Back at school, Emozichin quickly found out about the incident and immediately gave Qianlan a phone call. But Qianlan's phone had run out of battery last night, and she hadn't recharged it this morning. Because of this, Emozichin immediately drove out of the school after his physics lesson. He had a feeling that Qianlan would be there. Meanwhile, Su Chuanhao headed out to look for Qianlan. He had been upstairs when Qianlan and Mother Qian were arguing, so he waited until Mother Qian returned to her room before heading out to look for her. Luckily, Qianlan wasn't too far away. "Qianlan, get in the car." Su Chuanhao drove over and stopped the car in front of Qianlan. "I'll take you home." Qianlan looked at Su Chuanhao and shook her head. "Brother-in-law, you shouldn't be getting involved in my matters. I just don't want you to quarrel with your family. Sorry you're too nosy." After speaking, Qianlan continued to drive forward. At this time, Emozichin's car arrived nearby and honked at Qianlan. As soon as Qianlan realized it was Emozichin, she immediately crossed the road and opened the passenger seat door. "Let's go." Su Chuanhao watched as Qianlan left with Emozichin, but there was nothing he could do. At this time, Emozichin also saw Su Chuanhao. "What happened?" Emozichin asked on the way home. "Did you get expelled from school?" "My mother did it. She doesn't want to see us together." Qianlan replied straightforwardly. "But I don't want that family anymore. Zichin, can you take me away from here?" "But blood ties can't be severed. Let me take you home." "I don't want to. I can't kidnap someone else's daughter and run away from home," Emozichin said. "Trust me, I can convince your parents." "But how?" Qianlan was on the verge of breaking down. "Did you know that my parents want you to be a good match? I don't want you to be humiliated by them." "Who said we're not of the same family?" Emozichin suddenly laughed as he sped up the car. "But I don't want to see my mother right now." "In that case, let's go see your father," Emozichin replied. "Give me the address." "Forget it, I can find it." "Are you serious?" Could he be more serious than this? Emozichin couldn't help but laugh. "Did you think I'd allow the girl I like to break up with her family because of me? I'm a person that prioritizes family. I don't want you to fall out with your family." But Emozichin did not say much to Qianlan as he directly led her to the city council's office. He then told the staff that he wanted to see Father Qian. Luckily, it was almost lunchtime. After Father Qian finished his work, he saw the couple at the door. "Let's go." The three men walked into a nearby tea house while Qianlan kept her head down the entire time. "At least you know how to come home," Father Qian humphed. "Hello, uncle. I'm Emozichin. I've heard a little about you, but I never expected you to be so brave. You actually brought my daughter here to look for me," Father Qian said as he adjusted his suit. "You almost stole my daughter away from me. Uncle, I'm sorry. I know that you're worried about Qianlan's friends. I understand how you feel. Since you understand, then why did you? Dad, don't be so harsh. Qianlan immediately defended Emozichen. However, Emozichen did not get angry. Instead, he smiled and said, I'm sorry, uncle. I've offended you. I will definitely treat you to a meal on another day. With your permission, uncle, I would like to take Qianlan to Hyatt Regency for dinner tonight. As soon as Father Qian heard this, his first reaction was that this rascal was too brave. How dare he make such a request at a time like this? But when he heard the words Hyatt Regency, he furrowed his brows. After all, everyone knew that the houses on that piece of land were worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Hyatt Regency? I'm sorry, uncle. I didn't make myself clear. Mo Ting is my father and Tongning is my mother, Mo Zichen explained in a gentlemanly manner. Who in Beijing hadn't heard of these two names? Father Qian never imagined that Mo Zichen was the child of these two people. Even Qianlan was shocked. I'll explain it to you in detail later, Mo Zichen whispered to Qianlan. Chapter 1199. Since you're their son, why didn't you reveal your identity from the start? Plus, if you're their son, why are you teaching physics at that lousy school? Father Qian was still suspicious of Mo Zichen's identity. Qianlan is at the school and no one knows about her identity. I'm afraid of the same thing, Mo Zichen replied smoothly. As for why I teach physics, it's because my father wants my brother and I to gain more experience in society. That's why my brother is in the army and I'm teaching. In reality, based on Mo Zichen's patient attitude, it was obvious that his upbringing wasn't something an ordinary person could compare to. This left Father Qian speechless. Qianlan is my precious daughter. I don't want her to suffer. Although she feels that I'm restricting her, she needs to understand how dangerous her father's position is. It's not that I despise someone else's background. I'm simply afraid that if I step down from my position one day, my son-in-law will be able to protect my daughter from harm. That's enough. Since you've already explained everything to me, I have no reason to object. You guys can decide for yourselves. I still need to go to work. After speaking, Father Qian stood up, looked at his watch and hurried back to his office. Afterwards, Qianlan looked at Mo Zichen like she didn't know him. I thought you were just a normal physics teacher. From now on, I'll just be a normal physics teacher. I feel ashamed that I dragged my parents into this. If I want a girlfriend, I still need to use my family background. Mo Zichen shook his head helplessly. So the beauty that came to look for you yesterday? She's an older sister that I grew up with. She dropped by to see me, Mo Zichen explained. All of a sudden, everything feels a little surreal. Qianlan said as she looked at Mo Zichen. Will you eventually enter the entertainment industry and become a celebrity? I won't. I'm destined to be a normal physics teacher for the rest of my life. I like living a normal life. After saying this, Mo Zichen ran his hand through Qianlan's hair. Will you continue to like me? Qianlan looked into Mo Zichen's eyes and nodded her head. She felt that only Mo Zichen could understand what she was thinking. She felt that they were the same kind of people. I've already spoken to the principal. You can come back and continue your lessons. In the future, no one will interfere with what you do. What if our mothers showed a strong desire to control both of us? I seem to be very good at dealing with old people. Do you want to try? Mo Zichen winked at her. Let's go back to school. Don't wander around, I'll be worried. Also, don't drink so much. I understand. After that, the two of them returned to school. As for Mother Qian, no one had told her yet. When Su Chuanhao found out that he couldn't bring Qianlan home, his heart was in pain. He couldn't deny that Qianlan still had a place in his heart, but he had already married her sister. Especially since Qianlan liked a poor kid like him. What kind of happiness could she possibly have if she followed him? When Su Chuanhao returned home, he ran into Qian Hui in the living room. Where have you been? I went to look for Qianlan. Mom got into an argument with her this morning. Chuanhao, don't you think you're being a bit too much of a busybody? Qian Hui yelled at Su Chuanhao. Qian Hui, what do you mean by this? Mother Qian noticed the hidden meaning behind the couple's words, so she asked, Chuanhao is concerned about his sister-in-law. What's wrong with that? Mom, there are some things that you don't know. I don't know, but I'll know if you tell me, Mother Qian replied. From what you're saying, do you think there's something going on between Chuanhao and Qianlan? I didn't say anything. I'm going back to my room. Qian Hui held back her anger and did not reveal the truth. She held back her tears as she turned around and returned to her room. Meanwhile, Su Chuanhao couldn't take it anymore because of Qian Hui's temper. The person that asked him to take care of Qianlan was Qian Hui. So the person that was questioning him was also Qian Hui. Chuanhao, why didn't you bring Qianlan home? She boarded a man's car, Su Chuanhao replied. The two of them seem to be very close. Why is that poor man still clinging to my daughter? As soon as Mother Qian heard this, her heart exploded. No, I'm going to the university to look for that man. Mom, let me go. After all, we're both men. It'll be easier for us to talk, Su Chuanhao suggested. I also care about Qianlan. I don't want her to go down the wrong path. Okay, go ahead. Mother Qian had no idea that Su Chuanhao and Qianlan had a past relationship. After hearing this, Su Chuanhao looked upstairs. It was obvious that he was afraid that Qian Hui would be angry. Mother Qian understood what Su Chuanhao meant, so she waved her hand. Go ahead. I'll go comfort Qian Hui. Okay, thank you, Mom. After speaking, Su Chuanhao grabbed his car keys and left the house. He was definitely going to teach Mo Zichen a lesson today. He thought that because he was a PhD student at MIT, he had the right to teach a mere physics teacher a lesson. But he had no idea that Mo Zichen had a shocking background and frightening educational background. At this time, Mother Qian went upstairs to comfort her daughter. Qian Hui, what's wrong with you? Even as a mother-in-law, I can't stand watching you being so fierce to your husband. Mom, that's because you don't know. Qian Hui explained as she wiped away her tears. If you don't tell me, how would I know? What exactly happened to make my daughter so sad? Actually, before Chuanhao went to the US, he was Qianlan's boyfriend. Qian Hui couldn't help but reveal the secret to her mother. After hearing this, Mother Qian looked at her in shock. What did you say? If you have the guts, say it again. Mom, did you know about this beforehand? Qian Hui nodded her head. What's going on? Hurry and tell me. Mother Qian felt like she was about to have a heart attack. Why did her son-in-law suddenly have a relationship with Qianlan? Plus, from what Qian Hui said, it didn't seem simple. Mom, I really regret marrying Su Chuanhao. Although he doesn't say it, I can tell that Qianlan has always been in his heart. In fact, we're living under the same roof. Mom, I'm afraid. Chapter 1200. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Mother Qian was so frightened by Qian Hui's words that her blood pressure rose. I was wondering why Chunhao was so concerned about Qianlan. It turns out, that jerk actually bullied my two daughters. Mom. Qian Hui threw herself into Mother Qian's arms. You have to stand up for me. When he comes back, see how I'll settle the score with him. Mother Qian hugged Qian Hui with a furious expression. At this moment, Su Chuanhao drove over to Qianlan's school and asked around about Mo Zichen's class. After confirming that Mo Zichen was in his office preparing for class, he asked someone to call him over. Mo Zichen lifted his head and saw Su Chuanhao standing outside the office with a complicated expression on his face. He then stood up and walked over to Su Chuanhao. He then directly called out to him. I wonder what Mr. Su is looking for me for? Stop clinging to Qianlan. Su Chuanhao said to Mo Zichen. The two of you aren't a good match. Why don't you take a look at yourself and see how you're worthy of Qianlan? She is the mayor's daughter, not an ordinary female teacher. Do you think that you can use the Qian family to rise to the top? After listening to Su Chuanhao's undisguised evaluation, Mo Zichen smiled instead. If Mr. Su is here to talk about this, I think you should leave. Just tell me what you want. What will make you leave Qianlan? Is 1 million enough? Su Chuanhao pulled out a check from his pocket. As he wrote it, he asked, or do you think it's too little? In that case, I'll add another 1 million. Qianlan is the Qian family's treasure. She's not someone that someone like you can offend. If you don't leave, I'll call security. Mo Zichen couldn't be bothered to talk to this kind of person. He turned around and was about to return to his office when Su Chuanhao grabbed him and threw a punch at him. However, Mo Zichen grabbed her wrist. You will pay for your actions today. I'll be waiting for you. Mo Zichen shook off Su Chuanhao's wrist and answered coldly. Su Chuanhao was helpless against Mo Zichen, so he could only leave. But a little while later, Qianlan heard about this and quickly found her way to Mo Zichen's classroom. But at that time, Mo Zichen was already in physics class and had no time to talk to her. Afterwards, Qianlan returned to her office. But halfway there, Su Chuanhao blocked her way. Qianlan, seeing that everyone in the family was trying to interfere with her private matters, Qianlan let out a bitter laugh and asked, "Why can't you just let me go?" Qianlan, everyone's just concerned about you. Su Chuanhao continued to act like a gentleman. Su Chuanhao, please mind your own business. After speaking, Qianlan walked past Su Chuanhao and left. She didn't want everyone to care and love her in the name of love, but it made her feel like she was locked in a secret net, unable to breathe at all. Qianlan knew that Su Chuanhao had gone to take care of Mo Zichen. In the past few days, the Qian family had caused an uproar in the school. Everyone knew that she was the mayor's second daughter, and that she was with a poor boy. At this moment, she felt like she had completely lost her freedom. She even had to be careful when she breathed. Qianlan felt extremely uncomfortable. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt tired. It was one thing for the Qian family to do this, but why did they have to harass Mo Zichen? What right did they have to harass Mo Zichen? Before meeting her, Mo Zichen lived a normal life. Qianlan knew that he enjoyed this kind of peace, but the Qian family refused to let him have it. How much longer was she going to endure this? Soon Su Chuanhao returned home from school. But the person waiting for him was a serious Mother Qian. Mom, Chuanhao, let me ask you, before you married Qian Hui, who else were you close with? As soon as Su Chuanhao heard Mother Qian's question, he immediately knew that Qian Hui had already exposed the truth. Mom, why are you suddenly asking about this? How dare you ask? You obviously knew that Qian Hui was Qian Lan's sister when you married her. Why didn't you tell us? You've been keeping this a secret. What's your motive? Don't tell me you want both of my daughters to be entangled with you? Mom, you've misunderstood. I told Qian Hui about this from the start. Plus, Qian Hui knows that I only treat Qianlan like a sister, Su Chuanhao explained. Su Chuanhao explained. Look, all these years, I've always behaved myself and I've never done anything to Qianlan. That was true. After hearing Su Chuanhao's explanation, Mother Qian's expression softened. But because of this relationship, you and Qian Hui should move out. That way, Qian Hui won't have any wild thoughts, Mother Qian said. Mom, Qianlan and I have a clear conscience. Since you've explained everything, I don't want to pursue the matter any further. But, you need to avoid arousing suspicion between you and Qianlan. I'm already upset that she's entangled with that poor rascal, Mother Qian warned. At this time, Father Qian returned home from work. As soon as he walked in, he overheard Mother Qian talking about the poor rascal, so he quickly said, "Women are always short-sighted." Old Qian, what do you mean by that? Mother Qian immediately asked. You still don't know? The poor rascal you're talking about is Mo Ting and Tongning's son, Father Qian humphed. That can't be possible, right? I've already asked someone to verify it. There's no mistake. When I think about how rich the Mo family and Tang family are, Qianlan certainly has good taste, Father Qian praised. If that's the case, does that mean the rascal is also from a prestigious family? If Qianlan marries him, with this relationship, we will have a stronger support in Beijing. You could say that, Father Qian replied. Previously, the Qian family looked down on Mo Zichen. But after finding out that he was Mo Ting's son, their attitude immediately changed. Qianlan hid behind the screen and listened to her parents' plans. Father Qian had said that he was doing this for the sake of her happiness. But in the end, it was all because of the Mo family's influence in Beijing. With this thought, Qianlan revealed a look of despair. Perhaps being together with Mo Zichen would only harm him. Sometimes people couldn't escape their fate. Perhaps she should accept reality. With this thought, Qianlong gave Mo Zichen a phone call and arranged to meet outside. Mo Zichen thought she was being bullied again, so he immediately rushed over to the meeting place. But as soon as they met, Qianlong said to him, "Zichen, I think it's best that we forget about what happened between us. How long has it been? I've already caused you so much trouble. If a relationship needs to be burdened by a family, both of us will be tired. I don't want my family to use you. You deserve better." Qianlong. Mo Zichen wanted to cut her off. "I'm sorry." Qianlong held back her tears and apologized in seriousness. "Unless I can get rid of my family, I won't be able to place the pressure of my entire family on your shoulders." Chapter 12:01. Do you really have to do this? Mo Zichen's heart ached. "I don't want to see my family suck your blood," Qianlong said firmly. Qianlong said firmly as she stretched out her right hand. "I will free myself from my family. Give me your blessings." Mo Zichen took a deep breath and nodded his head as he held out Qianlong's hand. "From now on, if you run into any difficulties, feel free to look for me. I don't want to cause you any trouble." After speaking, Qianlong quickly turned around and walked away from Mo Zichen. She was afraid that she would regret her decision. She knew that Mo Zichen was a good person, but the problem was that she hadn't truly seen her family clearly. After leaving Mo Zichen, Qianlong knelt on the ground and cried. But she also reminded herself that from today onwards, she was going to do her best to reject her family and learn to make them respect her life. Otherwise, she would never fall in love. After returning to the Qian family home, Mother Qian immediately ran over and asked, "Didn't you say you were going to Hyatt Regency for dinner? Why didn't you go? Where's the rascal?" "I'm not going today and I won't ever go again," Qianlong replied in seriousness, "because you and the rest of you make me feel disgusted." "Qianlong, how could you say that? Our family is doing this for your own good. Don't keep saying that," Qianlong said firmly. "By the way, I've broken up with Mo Zichen. As you wished, I'm not going to look for him anymore. Qianlong, if there's nothing else, I'm going back to my room." After speaking, Qianlong brushed past her family and stubbornly returned to her own room. Mother Qian and the others were left standing at the door sighing. "This child has no idea that we are doing this for her sake. She doesn't know what's good for her." Qianlong sneered as she listened to these words. Afterwards, she made up her mind to leave. The next morning, Qianlong went to the university to resign. But just as she was leaving with some documents, she spotted Mo Zichen walking past her with a textbook in his hand. At that moment, Mo Zichen acted like he didn't know Qianlong as he walked past her expressionlessly. Since he was going to break up, he was going to do it cleanly. There was no need to pretend to be in pain and make things difficult for the other party. Qianlong was heartbroken, but she also became stronger. To escape from her parents' control, Qianlong signed up for the army without them knowing. By the time Mother Qian found out, Qianlong had already passed her physical examination. Mother Qian was surprised. She never expected Qianlong to be so unreasonable. But in order to enlist, Qianlong even cut her hair short without discussing it with her family. Before the training began, Qianlong was packing her luggage at home. As Qianlong and Qianhui approached her room, Qianlong said, "Qianlong, why don't I ask your father to pull some strings and get you off the list?" "You don't have to go. If you tell my father to do this, I'm going to report him," Qianlong said firmly. "Joining the army is my personal choice. You have no right to question me. Why would a girl want to be a soldier?" "Because I don't want to see you," Qianlong sneered. "Apart from joining the army, I have no other choice." "Qianlong," Mother Qian was anxious. "Your mother is doing this for your own good. We've already talked about this 1,000 times. There's no point talking about it anymore," Qianlong said as she closed her suitcase. After speaking, Qianlong closed her suitcase. "Mom, I wish you good health. Sis, I wish you a speedy pregnancy." Mother Qian was angry, but there was nothing she could do. Qianlong had become even more stubborn. and there was nothing she could do. After carrying her suitcase, Qianlan left the Qian family home. But as she got downstairs, she ran into Su Chuanhao. Qianlan did not say a word as she turned to leave. But Su Chuanhao suddenly asked, "Don't you want your family anymore? I'll send you off." Qianlan waved goodbye to Su Chuanhao and left the Qian family home without looking back. How badly was she hurt for her to be so determined? No one knew how she felt and no one knew how much she suffered. All she wanted was to control her own fate. Was that so difficult? No matter how difficult the Qian family was, she was willing to fight them to the end. After all, a person couldn't live their life under someone else's control. This was the only thing that Qianlan wanted. Therefore, she threw herself into the closed recruit training camp without hesitation. She felt that she needed an even stronger will and a firm belief. That night, while on a mission, one of Mo Zichen's friends asked, "Did you know that the woman you were dating went to the military?" Mo Zichen nodded his head. "I've heard about it." "Amazing. I've never seen such a strong-willed heiress." In order to break free from her family's control, she went to the toughest place in the world. "I'm impressed." Mo Zichen laughed. "As for Brother Qi, you're too pitiful. Didn't you only date for a little too short? Even something so dangerous couldn't keep your mouth shut." Mo Zichen sneered. "But I can understand why you fell for her. Don't you have a childhood friend by your side? It's been so many years, yet you've never fallen for her. Qianlan only looks weak on the surface. She's actually very strong-willed." Mo Zichen sighed. "Forget it. No matter how strong-willed she is, she's no longer yours. In our line of work, how can we find the right to date?" Mo Zichen did not say a word. To be exact, time would make them the best people they could be. A little while later, Tongning called Mo Zichen home to attend Hai Rui's anniversary celebration. In reality, she simply wanted to see her son, so she found an excuse. After all, it was safer to keep a low profile. So before the anniversary celebration started, he returned to Hyatt Regency. At that time, Tongning's friends were all at home. "Zichen, you're home." Mo Zichen approached the elders and greeted them sweetly. "Auntie Long, Auntie Lin, Mommy. Why did you suddenly come home?" Tongning immediately grabbed onto his hand. "I'm free today." Mo Zichen replied. "You guys chat first. I'm going to go get changed." "Hurry up then," Tongning urged. Afterwards, the aunties began to discuss amongst themselves. "Don't you feel bad that Zichen is teaching away from home?" Long Jie asked. "I think he's gotten skinnier." "It's one thing to feel bad, but his life is his own. He has the right to make his own decisions," Tongning replied. Who would have thought that the almighty Mo Ting and Tongning's beloved son would end up teaching at a school? No one would believe it. As long as he's happy. Mo Zichen leaned against the wall as he listened to Tongning defend him and speak up for him. In this world, there was probably no one that understood Mo Zichen better than Tongning. Mo Zichen suddenly felt both relieved and sad. He didn't want to see his mother grow old, even though Tongning looked no different from a 30-year-old. Chapter 1202. After Longman and the others left, Tongning entered Mo Zichen's room. As she looked at her son standing by the window in a daze, she asked gently, "Is something bothering you?" Mo Zichen turned around and shook his head. "Nothing. I gave birth to you. How could mommy not know what you're thinking?" Tongning said as she approached Mo Zichen. "In this world, only I and your father can understand you. Only I and your father can help you." Mo Zichen had never reported the bad news. Even when he was bullied, he never said a word. No matter what happened, he always shouldered everything on his own shoulders. But as she watched her son become more and more silent, Tongning's heart ached. "Mommy won't ask about your work, nor do I have the right to ask. But when it comes to your personal matters, mommy can help you." "Mom." Mo Zichen couldn't help but hug Tongning and place his head on her shoulder. "Your daughter-in-law is gone." "What happened?" Mo Zichen was convinced by Tongning, so he told her everything that happened recently, including Qianlan's family background. After hearing everything, Tongning laughed. If it's really as you say and this girl threw herself into the army without hesitation, then I think she has a temper. Mom. Fine, I won't joke with you. But son, women are born emotional. But if you really like someone, you won't want to see them get hurt. I'm surprised that she has such a decisive side to her at such a young age. She did it for your own good and for her own good. The two of you are still young and have countless possibilities. So, I can understand your pain. But I need to tell you that this girl really likes you. That's why she's willing to grow up without hesitation. Don't worry, Zichin. The world may be big, but there aren't many people that can understand each other. As long as you want to, you will be able to see each other again. So that's not your end, it's your beginning. My son is about to grow up. After hearing Tongning's words, Emo Zichin felt a lot better. Mom, your mouth is invincible. Are you feeling better? I feel a lot better, Emo Zichin nodded. That's good. Teach your sister her homework later. I can't do anything to her. Just like Tongning said, Emo Zian was still in school. In fact, she was cheerful and even a little naughty. I'll be right there, Emo Zichin replied. Actually, Emo Zichin missed home a lot, especially when his family was around. His family never fought or argued. At least, he had never seen his parents fight since he was young. Mother loved them very much, and father loved mother very much. As a result, Emo Zichin was constantly thinking about giving up and returning to his parents' side during his years of training on the outside. However, he felt that he should have a choice. As intelligence agents, they wouldn't have any organization, they wouldn't have any military achievements, they wouldn't have anything, only endless running around in danger. However, in this world, there had to be someone to do such things, to protect the innocent and weak. He had an abnormally developed brain. Wouldn't it be a pity if he didn't make use of it? Tongning and Emo Ting had their guesses, but they never interfered. Although they were worried about his safety, they also felt that he was selfless and great. After calming himself down, Emo Zichin headed downstairs to Emo Zian's room. Seeing her struggling with advanced mathematics, he knocked her on the head. Idiot, can't you solve it again? I'm not as smart as you. Emo Zian pouted. Brother too, if you stayed at home more often, my advanced mathematics wouldn't be so bad. If you spent the time you spent dating instead of studying, you might even be better than me. Brother too. Hearing Emo Zian's rebuke, Emo Zichin laughed. Okay, I won't tease you anymore in case you complain to Mom. I'm glad you know. Emo Zichin looked at Emo Zian's math problem in detail and sat down beside her. I'll solve it for you first. Watch carefully. Emo Zian looked at Emo Zichin and poked the scar on his forehead. All these years, it must have been hard on you. It's not what you think. Emo Zichin hit her on the head with his pen. Be serious. I just feel bad for you. Emo Zichin patted Emo Zian on the head and wrote down his thoughts for her. I'm fine. Bro, you should go home. Emo Zichin did not say a word as he quietly finished solving Emo Zian's math problem and placed the answer in front of her. It wasn't that he didn't want to go home, he simply couldn't because he had responsibilities. I'll come home often to see you. I don't believe you, Emo Zian humphed. Emo Zian humphed. You and your brother have never fulfilled your promise. What's the point of being a little teacher? Why don't we, brother and sister, also become movie stars? Seeing that Emo Zian was getting more and more excited, Emo Zichin nudged her on the head. You're so ugly, who's going to watch you in a movie? Do your homework. Okay. Tongning stood by the door as she watched the siblings interact. She then turned around and wiped away her tears. She felt like she owed Emo Zichin too much. All these years he had been working hard on his own on the outside. He wanted to compensate, but he didn't seem to need anything. It wasn't easy for him to fall in love with a girl, yet he was hurt so badly. Mom, I won't be going to the celebration party tonight. Just as Tongning and Emo Zian got changed and were about to head to Hai Rue's anniversary celebration, Emo Zichin said to the mother and daughter, You guys know that I don't like to show my face in public. But brother. All right. Tongning nodded as she placed a kiss on her son's forehead. She didn't think there was anything wrong with this. Take some time to come home. I will. After speaking, Tongning led Emo Zian into the car. However, Mo Zian was furious. Mommy, your father is still waiting for us. Don't throw a tantrum, Tang Ning comforted. I just can't bear to part with second brother. Mo Zian was on the verge of tears. Didn't you see it just now? When he was helping me with my homework, his arms were covered in bruises. What kind of book does he have to suffer so many injuries from teaching? Did second brother go to fight? Tang Ning hugged Mo Zian in her arms and comforted her gently. Yan everyone has their own choices, whether it's your brother or you. You will eventually get married and start a career, and you will leave me and your father. This is a natural thing to do. You need to learn to accept it. Your brother is doing what he thinks he should do and what he thinks is right. What we need to do is protect him, not stop him, understand? Chapter 1203. 5 years later, Mo Zichen was promoted to a senior lecturer and was now in a top university. So he moved from his small apartment to a high-end apartment near the university. Recently, someone moved in next door and renovated overnight. As a result, Mo Zichen had no time to rest and was in a bad state of mind. Because of this, Mo Zichen contacted the property management, but he couldn't find a solution. So when the neighbor finally moved in, he was going to greet them and see how uneducated they were. How could they not care about other people's feelings? University wasn't as busy as middle school. Mo Zichen only had 4 classes a week, and the rest of his time was spent reading. So he was now a little short-sighted. He couldn't live without a pair of black glasses at home, but it made him look even more attractive. At 26 years old, Mo Zichen was already a mature man, but he was still alone. To kill time, he kept a blue cat called Nibbling Mud at home. He had picked up the cat from the streets, and it was so hungry that it ate mud, hence the name. That afternoon, Mo Zichen was preparing for class at home when he heard the sound of furniture being moved from next door. He guessed that his good neighbor must have moved in, so he immediately stood up from his desk and opened the door. At this time, a woman with short hair appeared in front of him. Her back was straight, and she had an extraordinary aura. Sofa, be gentle. Mo Zichen walked over and was about to tell her about the renovations. But as soon as the woman turned around, Mo Zichen froze. He wanted to see an old friend, but he never expected it to be like this. It was Qianlan. And judging from her expression, she didn't seem surprised at all. Obviously, this wasn't a coincidence. After the dining table is moved in, you can leave. After Qianlan instructed the workers, she turned around and stretched out her hand towards Mo Zichen. Long time no see. It's a temporary place to stay. Qianlan smiled. I come back every now and then. Did you know I was staying here? No, my unit arranged it. I only found out afterwards, Qianlan replied. But don't worry, I only come back once or twice a month. I don't think I'll cause too much trouble. I hope your partner doesn't misunderstand. The Qianlan in front of him was capable, energetic and decisive. She had the demeanor of a soldier. I'm still single. Mo Zichen shook his head. So that's how it is. My time is limited, so I'll continue to work. Let's have a meal together another day when I'm free. There's no need. You can continue with your work. Mo Zichen turned around and returned to his home, closing the door tightly. They had not seen each other for several years. Perhaps he was the only one who felt awkward. Soon there was no sound from next door. Qianlan had left. Mo Zichen calmed down and continued to read. However, he realized he couldn't focus anymore. Then he laughed bitterly. Qianlan did as she said. After moving in, she only stayed there once and spent the rest of her time at the military base. Mo Zichen didn't know what her military rank was, but he knew that Qianlan had chosen to study at a military university. 5 years had passed, and everything had changed. However, Mo Zichen could occasionally hear a young man entering Qianlan's home. Mo Zichen guessed that this was Qianlan's new partner. She should have gotten rid of her family now, right? Because less than a year after Qianlan entered the military, the Qian family was investigated and they disappeared from Beijing. So it was hard to tell if they had migrated. One day, Mo Zichen was reading at home as usual, but there was a knock on the door. Emo Zichen opened the door and saw the handsome man next door. He couldn't help asking, "What's the matter?" "I don't have any noodles at home. Can you lend me some?" The man was young and looked like a good match for Qianlan. Emo Zichen froze for a few seconds before he nodded his head. "Wait a moment. I heard my fiancé mention you before." After hearing this, Emo Zichen couldn't help but laugh. This man was quite magnanimous. He lived next door to his fiancé's ex-boyfriend, and even came to her ex-boyfriend's house to borrow some noodles. Even so, Emo Zichen still gave him the noodles. "Is this enough?" "It's enough. You're such a good person." Emo Zichen calmly closed the door. A little while later he heard the door open next door. If he was right, Qianlan must have returned home. Perhaps it was time for him to find a new place to live. With this thought, Emo Zichen began to search for an apartment online and decided to sell it. During this time, he would occasionally run into Qianlan and the man buying groceries. But Emo Zichen was always quiet, making it difficult to tell what he was thinking. They were probably planning to get married, right? But just as Emo Zichen found a new apartment and was about to move out, something happened at Qianlan's home. That night, an intense argument could be heard from next door. Afterwards, a deafening door slammed shut. Emo Zichen got up from his bedroom and opened the door to look next door. There, he found Qianlan sitting in the doorway with a pained expression. "Get up," Emo Zichen said as he stretched out his hand. Qianlan shook her head and said to Emo Zichen, "Our wedding is tomorrow, but we broke up." "Why?" Emo Zichen asked as he knelt down. "Why did you break up so easily?" "Because he said that I have no feelings for him and that my heart has never been with him," Qianlan explained helplessly. "We met on a blind date, and we've only known each other for less than a month. He said that a month has passed, but I'm not even willing to let him hold my hand." "Then why are you in such a rush to get married?" "My mother has late-stage esophageal cancer. Although she used to be hated, she's still my mother. Her biggest wish is to see me get married," Qianlan explained as she stood up. After Qianlan explained, she held on to the cold wall as she stood up. "I'm sorry, I made a fool out of myself." "What about tomorrow's wedding?" "I'm not sure. All I can say is that the groom ran away," Qianlan laughed. "I don't have any other choice." After speaking, Qianlan returned to her home. The next morning, the house next door was very lively. But, not long after, the sound of an argument could be heard. Emo Zichen could hear the bridesmaids asking why the groom wasn't here yet. At first, Emo Zichen had no idea what game Qianlan was playing. But from the looks of it, it was obvious that the groom had run away. Emo Zichen didn't know why he still cared. He was originally about to leave for class, but a moment later, he heard an urgent knock on his door. Emo Zichen put on his jacket and opened the door to find Qianlan standing outside in her wedding dress. Chapter 1204. Do me a favor, okay? Help me with the wedding ceremony. I know you don't want to, but I don't have any other choice. I don't want to agitate my mother, Qianlan said as she grabbed onto Emo Zichen's arm. I can promise you that we'll hold a ceremony, but we won't register a marriage certificate. After that, you can choose who you want to marry, and we won't have anything to do with each other. But, Zichen, help me. No matter how Emo Zichen thought about it, he felt like he had been tricked. But he still ended up being dragged onto the wedding car by Qianlan. The bridesmaids were all Qianlan's colleagues. When they saw that she was brave enough to change the groom, they were completely impressed. Since they were already in the car, Emo Zichen decided to help her out. After all, he was going to be a lecturer today, so he had to dress formally. The wedding was small, but there were plenty of soldiers present. Including Qianlan's friends and family, there were only 20 to 30 guests. But Emo Zichen could tell that Mother Qian, who was sitting in the front row, did not look well. She looked like a patient. Qian Hui and Father Qian were also present, including Su Chuanhao. As soon as they saw Emo Zichen, their eyes grew wide in shock. Where was the groom? Why did he change him at the last minute? So how did this look like a wedding? It was more like a car accident. Seeing this, Mother Qian stood up and asked, "Are you joking? Where's the groom? Here. Qianlan replied as she hooked her arm around Emo Zichen's. I know who he is, but he's not your groom. Qianlan, this is your most important day. Don't joke around. I'm not joking. I'm marrying this man today, Qianlan said to the wedding host. Let's begin. His name is Emo Zichen. The wedding host was a little surprised, but he quickly nodded his head. Then I'll begin. Everyone thought it was ridiculous, but they still allowed Qianlan and Emo Zichen to complete the process. It was too ridiculous. Even though Mother Qian found out that the groom had run away, she still grabbed someone to make up the numbers. Qianlan was getting more and more daring. Not to mention, she even grabbed her ex-boyfriend. Wasn't things getting messy enough? Emo Zichen knew that everyone was saying that Qianlan was ridiculous. Because even if the groom ran away from the wedding, no one would catch him to make up the numbers. However, didn't his parents do it before? With this thought, Emo Zichen paused the wedding ceremony, turned around and bowed to everyone. He then explained, I'm sorry everyone, I was indeed caught by Qianlan to make up the numbers because the groom ran away. Although the wedding is a mess, it's great that Qianlan's parents are present. I feel that I am the one that can give Qianlan happiness. So, I hope Auntie and Uncle can hand Qianlan over to me. To be honest, Qianlan isn't ready to get married yet. The only reason why she's doing this today is to reassure Auntie. So, the groom ran away and Qianlan had no choice but to capture me, her neighbor. But since I'm already here, even though this wedding doesn't count, I feel that I am the person that Qianlan can entrust her life to. Auntie, what do you think? Can we put an end to this farce? After hearing Emo Zichen's words, Mother Qian looked at Qianlan. If Emo Zichen hadn't stepped in, how much face would you have lost today? Qianlan looked at Emo Zichen and smiled. Mom, what do you mean he ran away from the wedding? I only know one groom. Since the ceremony is already halfway through, let's hold on until it's over. After all, the Qian family isn't going to acknowledge anyone else today. Qianlan looked at Emo Zichen with a troubled expression. The entire scene looked so real and fake that Emo Zichen couldn't tell them apart. Luckily, Qianlan whispered in his ear, Don't worry, after the ceremony is over, we will still be friends like we were before. Emo Zichen nodded his head and turned around to face the officiator of the wedding. Soon, the wedding ceremony was over. Afterwards, Mother Qian said to the guests, I've made a fool of myself today and made everyone laugh at me. My daughter is currently a second lieutenant, but she's still very immature. I would like to apologize on her behalf. In that case, I would like everyone to treat today as an engagement ceremony. When they get married, the Qian family will definitely let our daughter marry in style. Mother Qian's words dissolved the awkwardness of the ceremony. Everyone understood what Mother Qian meant, and clapped their hands to congratulate Qianlan. After the ceremony was over, Mother Qian invited the guests to rest in the hotel. Only then did she start to lecture Qianlan. It's been 5 years. You've been away from home for 5 years, and this is all you've given me? Emo Zichen stood behind Qianlan and watched as she received Mother Qian's lecture. You previously said that you wanted to leave the Qian family, and I let you. I told you not to come back. But what are you doing now? Putting on an act to make me happy. You almost angered me to death. Luckily, Zichen stepped in to save the day. Emo Zichen looked at Mother Qian carefully and realized that she had changed quite a bit. It seemed, it was because her family had been investigated, and she'd had enough of the fickleness of human nature, so she became a little more tactful. 5 years ago, Emo Zichen had never met Mother Qian, and they had never crossed paths. But he couldn't help but investigate Qianlan's family. So he knew what Mother Qian was like 5 years ago. But since things have gotten to this point, I still want to ask, Zichen, did you mean what you said just now, or were you just trying to brush off the guests? Of course you've helped us. Tell me honestly, I won't blame you. It's just a small matter. Auntie, you don't need to take it to heart. Emo Zichen replied with a hidden meaning. I understand. Mother Qian nodded. In that case, everything that happened today doesn't count. Qianlan looked at Emo Zichen with a slightly disappointed expression, but it quickly disappeared. No, what I mean is, I'm willing to be with Qianlan again. Mo Zichen looked into Qianlan's eyes and said, "Since we weren't fated to be together 5 years ago, let's try again in 5 years. If it still doesn't work out, I won't force it." Qianlan looked at Mo Zichen in shock. "Are you being serious?" "But, Qianlan, I need to tell you the truth. 5 years ago, when you broke up with me, I spent a lot of time recovering. So it's possible that I still hate you. If you want to be with me, you need to be mentally prepared that I may not be able to get close to you at first." After hearing this, Qianlan nodded her head and revealed a bitter smile. "I understand. If you approve of this engagement ceremony, then it counts." Chapter 1205. The ceremony came to a successful end. But as Mo Zichen said, after 5 years, it was going to be difficult for Qianlan to re-enter his heart. Mo Zichen couldn't say that he had no feelings for Qianlan, but his feelings for her were quite complicated. Sometimes, when he thought about it, his heart was filled with complaints. After the ceremony was over, Mo Zichen and Qianlan returned to their luxurious apartment. But, as they returned to their respective homes, they seemed to have nothing to say to each other. "I'll go home first. I still have classes tomorrow." Qianlan nodded. "I'll be returning to the army tomorrow." They were officially engaged, but the distance between them seemed to have grown even further. This time, Mo Zichen did not plan to take the initiative. After returning home, he prepared for class as usual. But in the middle of the night, Mo Zichen had just finished his shower and was about to get into bed when he heard the doorbell ring. Mo Zichen opened the door in his pajamas to find Qianlan standing outside with her luggage. "I thought about it. Since we are engaged, can I move in?" Mo Zichen looked at Qianlan. Seeing that she was taking the initiative like she did 5 years ago, he felt an indescribable pain in his heart. But he still opened the door and let her in. "The guest room is empty. Do whatever you want. Don't disturb me tonight. Good night." After speaking, Mo Zichen walked straight into the master bedroom, without taking another glance at Qianlan. Qianlan did not force Mo Zichen. Instead, she put down her luggage and began to familiarize herself with the surroundings. Mo Zichen may have lived on his own for many years, but he always kept his home spotless and organized. He was a true obsessive-compulsive person. Afterwards, Qianlan settled into the guest room. Although she knew that it was hard for Mo Zichen to get used to living in his home like this, or perhaps he even hated her a little, he didn't kick her out, did he? But for Qianlan, apart from being shameless, what else could she do? The next morning, Qianlan did as she said and went to the military base. So, by the time Mo Zichen woke up, she was already gone. There were her slippers and toiletries at home, and her clothes and office equipment were now hung in the originally empty guest room. Why bother? Mo Zichen thought to himself. Afterwards he closed the door, grabbed his textbooks and headed to the school to give a speech. For an entire week, Qianlan did not appear at home. It was as though the incident at the church was nothing more than a dream. Mo Zichen returned to his normal routine. He wasn't bothered by Qianlan's incident, and continued to do his own thing. Sometimes he would stay in the library for an entire day. However, after the last class on Friday, when Mo Zichen walked out with his documents, he saw the students pointing at the military vehicle parked in front of the school building and discussing the female soldier. As soon as Mo Zichen saw Qianlan, he walked over and asked, "Why are you here?" "I want to go home, but I don't have the keys," Qianlan replied. "Teacher Mo, who is that?" A female classmate that had a crush on Mo Zichen approached Mo Zichen and asked about Qianlan's identity with a hopeful look in her eyes. It seemed they didn't want to hear any heartbreaking news. But Mo Zichen was honest. Since he had personally agreed to it, he had no intention of going back on his word. "This is my fiancé." His fiancé is a soldier. How cool! The surrounding students couldn't help but exclaim. Mo Zichen did not say a word as he boarded the car with Qianlan. "From now on, don't come to the school if there's nothing important. I'll get you a set of keys." "Did I embarrass you?" Qianlan asked as she drove. "I like to keep a low profile," Mo Zichen replied coldly. "Zichen, let's go home, I'm tired," Mo Zichen interrupted as he continued to read through his documents. Qianlan had no choice but to take a deep breath and drive Mo Zichen back to their apartment. They then entered the house one after the other. I'll make some congee tonight. If you want some, let me know and I'll make it in advance. If you don't like it, you can make it yourself or order takeout. After returning home, Mo Zichen changed his clothes and headed into the kitchen. After dinner was ready, he returned to his study room. Qianlan felt like an outsider because Mo Zichen treated her like she didn't exist. Because of this, Qianlan knocked on Mo Zichen's study room door and leaned against it. Have you been like this for the past 5 years? I didn't purposely keep my chastity for you. I simply haven't met the right person, Mo Zichen replied calmly. So, everything you said that day at the church was a lie? Didn't you ask me for help that day? Plus, you owe me a thank you. In the past, you weren't covered in thorns. It's been 5 years. Everything that needs to change has changed, let alone me. Mo Zichen said before he lifted his head and looked at Qianlan. Sleep early tonight. Are we going to continue being indifferent like this? At least for now, I'm still angry at you. Mo Zichen said before he lowered his head again. Qianlan was upset, but she accepted it. After all, she had no idea how much pain Mo Zichen went through after she broke up with him. She thought he was doing it for the sake of everyone. But if she had held on a little longer, the Qian family might have changed and they wouldn't have missed out on 5 years. At the time, Mo Zichen understood her helplessness. But now he couldn't. It seemed the older he got, the more he couldn't understand why people would give up on their relationships so easily. However, on the surface, Qianlan couldn't tell that Mo Zichen had such a deep grudge against her. But she understood that Mo Zichen should immediately forgive her for giving up on their relationship, because she couldn't handle the pressure from her family. Worst of all, she hadn't even put in any effort. So, she had to reignite Mo Zichen's feelings for her. So lately, Qianlan had been observing Mo Zichen's daily routine and memorizing his habits. People with OCD hated it when others broke their balance. So Mo Zichen's daily routine was the same. It didn't take long before Qianlan figured out Mo Zichen's habits. She also knew when she could avoid seeing him, and when she could see him. She even learned a few of Mo Zichen's favorite dishes. It wasn't that Mo Zichen wasn't aware of Qianlan's behavior, but he didn't know how to accept it. He still had a wound in his heart that had yet to heal. Especially when Qianlan continued to be so attentive to him. He became even more afraid that he would one day be abandoned again. But Qianlan was becoming more and more reckless at home. In fact, she even walked around the living room wearing nothing but a shirt, revealing a pair of slender legs. Chapter 1206. If it's possible, try to keep your pants on. Mo Zichen reminded after waking up early in the morning to see that Qianlan was acting as carefree as ever. Qianlan looked down at herself and didn't notice anything wrong. But she still listened to Mo Zichen and returned to her room to put on a knee-length dress. It was the weekend, so Qianlan dressed casually. But Mo Zichen reminded her. Be more formal. We'll have a guest later. Qianlan nodded her head. Okay, I understand. This was the first time that Mo Zichen spoke to her calmly since they started living together. Plus, it was because they had a guest. Since Mo Zichen did not ask her to leave, it seemed he had already admitted his identity in front of everyone. Soon a guest arrived. After opening the door, apart from a beautiful figure, there was also a small figure. Mo Zichen carried the woman in his arms and invited the elegant woman into the house. This woman was none other than their childhood sweetheart, Little Eggshell Nangong Kai. Nangong Kai got married 3 years ago, but her husband wasn't Mo Zichen or Mo Zishi. Instead, she got married to an actor in the entertainment industry. According to rumors, this actor cared about his family a lot. Is there someone else in the house? Nangong Kai asked as she heard some movement in the room. Mo Zichen smiled as he watched Qianlan walk out of the room. As soon as Nangong Kai saw this, she came to a realization. It's been 5 years, but your tastes haven't changed. This is my fiancé, Qianlan. This is Kai Jia, Mo Zichen introduced. Qianlan nodded her head slightly. Hello. We've met before. 5 years ago. Back then, you were just a teacher. What are you doing now? Nangong Kai asked. I'm in the army. I became a soldier. I should have known that Zichen hasn't been in a relationship for the past 5 years. It's because he's always reserved a place for you in his heart. The fact that the two of you got back together can be considered fate. Let's go. I'm taking Yao Er out to play today. Mo Zichen said as he changed the subject. Okay, you're not going to bring Qianlan with you? She has to return to the army today. She doesn't have time. After speaking, Mo Zichen returned to his room and put on a jacket. Before he left with Nangong Kai, he said to Qianlan, Kai Jie and I will go visit the set. Be careful on your way back to the army. Aha! Qianlan nodded. Let's go. Logically speaking, Qianlan should be happy that Mo Zichen had admitted his identity in front of others. But Qianlan still felt that the words fiancé didn't mean anything to Mo Zichen. Moreover, she had never mentioned that she was going back to the army today. After leaving the apartment, even though Mo Zichen was carrying the child, he remained unusually quiet. This made Nangong Kai unable to see through him. You've already returned to your side. Why are you still so depressed? I don't know either. The person I've been missing for 5 years suddenly appeared in front of me, but I couldn't help but want to face her with the worst attitude and ignore her. I don't know what's wrong with me. I want to forgive her, but it doesn't seem that easy, Mo Zichen said in a self-mocking manner. I want to accept her approaching me, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to forget the fact that I was abandoned 5 years ago. Nangong Kai smiled and took her child from his hands. Zichen, you're too restrained. It's not like you're the 21-year-old from 5 years ago. If you're abandoned again, all you have to do is bring her back. Why must you care so much about your pride? You're a mature man, aren't you? You're holding on too tightly. If you loosen your grip at the right time, perhaps, you won't feel so bad anymore. After hearing this, Mo Zichen did not respond. When it comes to this, you should call Auntie Ning more often. She'll teach you a lot. Mo Zichen had arranged to meet Nangong Kai today for 2 reasons. On one hand, he was going to help the mother and daughter drive. On the other hand, he was going to visit his parents on set. After so many years, the two of them were still so obsessed with sci-fi movies. I don't want to tell my mother yet. The more hopeful she is, the more disappointed she will be. Take care of yourself. In reality, Mo Zichen felt a lot better after hearing Nangong Kai's words. But it wasn't that he wasn't afraid anymore. Just like Nangong Kai said, if Qianlan ran away again, all he had to do was bring her back. Why did he have to be so conflicted? After arriving on set, Mo Zichen saw his loving parents. Now that Yen Er had taken over Hairue, Mo Zichen had more time to spend with his wife. So the couple were now inseparable. Mo Zichen looked at his parents from afar. As he watched them love each other from the bottom of their hearts, he suddenly felt a lot of emotions. Tongning turned around and saw her son. She immediately put down the design in her hands and approached Mo Zichen. How did you find the time to come here? Mom, I really miss you. You don't miss your father? Dad, it's enough that you miss me. After speaking, Mo Zichen stretched out his arms and hugged his mother. Mom, Yanji and I still haven't gotten married. Are you anxious? It's one thing for me to be anxious, but I will never force you. You have the freedom to choose when you want to get married. Mom, I want to get married. If you want to get married, then get married. I only have one thing to say. Once you've made a decision, you need to move forward bravely. Even if it's wrong. As long as you take responsibility and have a clear conscience, you won't have any regrets in life. The same goes for others. Don't always think that you're the one at a disadvantage. When two people are together, the most important thing is to contribute to each other. After hearing Tongning's words, Mo Zichen couldn't help but smile. He was reminded of what Nangong Kai had said to him. Indeed, Tongning's words were able to enlighten people. Thank you, Mom. Bring her home some other day so we can meet. Since Mo Zichen wanted to marry someone, Tongning would definitely support him. After all, it was her son's choice. You are the best mother in the world. Mo Zichen couldn't help but sigh. That day, Mo Zichen spent some time with his parents on set. Only after it was dark did he drive back to his apartment. Mo Zichen thought Qianlan was already asleep, but as soon as he turned on the lights, he saw Qianlan sleeping soundly on the sofa with her legs bare. Mo Zichen did not say a word. He simply removed his jacket and lay down beside Qianlan. Qianlan did not wake up, so Mo Zichen wrapped his arms around her waist and lay down on the sofa. For some reason, he suddenly felt a strong desire to smell Qianlan's body. Chapter 1207. But by the time Qianlan opened her eyes, she was lying on the sofa and Mo Zichen had already returned to his room. Although Qianlan was disappointed, she did not force the issue. She stood up and returned to the guest room to get some rest before returning to the army the next day. However, to her surprise, a moment later, Mo Zichen knocked on the door. After she opened the door, he said to her, "Come here." Qianlan froze for a moment. After quite some time, she finally reacted. "You mean you want me and you're not willing?" Qianlan immediately shook her head. Mo Zichen got his answer. He turned around and returned to his room. He moved half of his space to the inside of the bed. Qianlan's body stiffened as she moved closer to Mo Zichen's side. However, the couple stood back to back without saying a word. It wasn't until Qianlan was about to fall asleep that Mo Zichen finally said, "When we meet again in 5 years, I don't know how to face you. But I don't want to let you go. When I see you, I hate you, but when I don't see you, I miss you again. I don't know what I want to do either, but Qianlan, do you understand? I want to start over, but I can't trust you." After saying this, Mo Zichen calmed down and told Qianlan everything that was on his mind. After Qianlan heard this, she silently cried. "In your heart, I must be a woman that leaves and comes back as I please, right? I was the one who said we should break up 5 years ago. But in the past 5 years, there hasn't been a day that I haven't regretted it. I know you will hate me, blame me, but in the military, only by thinking of you can I persevere and survive. Zichen, it's fine if you want to blame me, I can wait for you. I'm right here by your side. You can hate me. You can scold me, but I will never leave your side again." After speaking, Qianlan stretched out her arms and hugged him. "I will always be by your side." In the darkness, Mo Zichen blinked slightly and sighed. Then, he sank into the boundless darkness. His soul, which had been floating in the air for a long time, suddenly felt as though it had plunged into the soil and taken root. That feeling was much more stable than before. The next morning, Qianlan woke up in the master bedroom to find Mo Zichen was already awake. But the sun had not even risen yet. So, when she touched the spot next to her, it was already cold. 5 years ago, Mo Zichen often returned home in the wee hours of the morning. So, Qianlan thought for a moment before she put on her uniform and headed back to the base. Although Mo Zichen's words last night made her feel bad, he still spoke her mind. She never imagined that Mo Zichen would feel so hopeless towards their relationship. After Qianlan returned to the army, she temporarily forgot about what Mo Zichen had said to her. So, on the training field, she became even more aggressive and worked even harder. Has Instructor Qian entered menopause early? You're training us like we're not even human. The recruits on the training ground were slightly dissatisfied, because they were truly suffering unspeakably. For a woman to be so fierce, who would want her? I heard he's almost 27, but he still doesn't have a girlfriend. With her ferocious appearance, who would dare to take her? What are you all whispering about? If you're so energetic, why don't you do another 200 pull-ups? Qianlan was unusually aggressive in front of the recruits. Instructor Qian, we were wrong. There's no room for discussion. Get moving, Qianlan ordered. Since you're in the army, don't expect to be comfortable. Comfort is reserved for the dead. Perhaps no one would have imagined that Qianlan looked skinny, but her body actually contained an incredible amount of strength. As a soldier, not only did her body need to be honed, but her previously weak willpower also needed to be honed. Especially when she thought about Mo Zichen, she realized that no matter how difficult things were, Qianlan was able to overcome them. By the time she saw Mo Zichen again, another week had passed. Qianlan dragged her exhausted body home to find Mo Zichen, sitting on the sofa reading a book. Perhaps this was how the saying, "Time is peaceful," described. "You're back?" Mo Zichen asked without lifting his head. "Aha." Qianlan's voice was deep and tired. "Have you eaten?" "I cooked a little," Mo Zichen added. In reality, Qianlan had already eaten at the army base. But when she thought about sitting with Mo Zichen, she quickly replied, "Not yet. Go get changed and come out." Mo Zichen put down his book and stood up from the sofa. But Qianlan noticed that Mo Zichen's gait was a little unnatural. "What's wrong with your leg?" Qianlan immediately asked. "I accidentally bumped into it," Mo Zichen replied casually. Qianlan looked carefully at his ankle, and then at the bruise on his thigh. How did he bump into it? It was obviously a result of a beating. "Did you go out again last night?" Qianlan asked from behind Mo Zichen. 5 years ago, you always came home in the middle of the night. Last week, you went out in the middle of the night. I knew." Mo Zichen did not say a word. After speaking, Qianlan walked into the bedroom and pulled out a first aid kit for Mo Zichen. She then knelt down in front of him and said, "I'm good at treating injuries like this. Sit down." Mo Zichen looked down and noticed the nervous expression on Qianlan's face. "Sit down." Mo Zichen was a little surprised as he took a few steps back and sat down on the sofa. "How many days has it been since you went out?" Qianlan guessed because she noticed that the rubbish at home hadn't been thrown out for a few days. "You haven't left the house since you got injured?" Mo Zichen nodded. "Since you wanted to disguise yourself. Why did you let me find out?" Qianlan lifted his leg up and looked at the scars on his thigh. Qianlan did not say a word as she buried her face in Mo Zichen's lap and began to cry. "These injuries are at least 10 years old, right?" Mo Zichen didn't explain. He just felt something strange in his heart. Why are there so many injuries? Why? In the end, Mo Zichen reached out his hand and gently wiped away the tears on Qianlan's face. "Didn't you say you were going to treat my injury? Why are you crying?" Qianlan choked up as she took a deep breath to calm herself down. "I didn't know. I really didn't know you had so many injuries on your body. I'm already used to it." Mo Zichen remained silent about his identity. After all, he had signed an agreement that he couldn't reveal it to anyone, including the people closest to him. "Okay, I won't ask anything. But if you get injured again in the future, can you tell me?" Qianlan pulled out a bottle of iodophor to disinfect Mo Zichen's wound. "Are you worried?" "Yes." Qianlan nodded her head. "I'm worried. Don't you know? My heart aches. When I see these injuries, I can't breathe. I feel like I'm suffocating." Chapter 1208. Seeing Qianlan's teary eyes, Mo Zichen couldn't help but place a kiss on her lips. Qianlan was stunned at first. Then, she slowly closed her eyes. Mo Zichen didn't know why he was being so impulsive, but he didn't want to see Qianlan cry. 5 years ago, when she cried, his heart softened. 5 years later, when she cried, his heart still softened. "Don't cry." Qianlan stopped crying, but she still couldn't help but sob. Mo Zichen watched as Qianlan helped him apply medicine, but he did not say a word. To him, these injuries were nothing more than normal. But to Qianlan it was a huge shock. Which department? Special Forces? Or some secret organization? "Don't ask anything. It won't do you any good." After speaking, Mo Zichen stood up from the sofa. "Plus, these injuries are nothing. After all, you were the one who gave me the most serious injuries. Sorry. I'm really sorry, but I've already made a mistake and I've already been punished for 5 years. Zichen. While you're punishing yourself, you're also punishing me." After speaking, Mo Zichen headed into the kitchen to prepare dinner. That night, the couple sat quietly at the dining table. Qianlan looked at Mo Zichen's lowered head and said, "I'll try to be a good wife." Mo Zichen did not respond. After he finished eating, he said to Qianlan, "Since you're a good wife, go and wash the dishes." Qianlan was a little surprised as she nodded her head. "Okay." Qianlan was happy, even if it was just a slight response from Mo Zichen. That night, the couple entered the bedroom one after another. When Qianlan saw Emo Zichen lying on the bed, her face turned slightly red because he was half naked. But when Qianlan approached and saw the scars on Emo Zichen's body, her eyes almost turned red. Afterwards, the couple lay down on the bed, and Qianlan gently stroked the scars on Emo Zichen's back. She imagined how painful it must have been for him to suffer these injuries. If you keep touching, something bad is going to happen. Go to sleep. Emo Zichen's voice drifted into Qianlan's ears, but it did not intimidate Qianlan. Instead, she inched closer to Emo Zichen's back and gently placed a kiss on the scars. Emo Zichen's body stiffened as he turned to look at Qianlan. Their eyes met and an indescribable feeling flowed through them. I've already warned you. Emo Zichen suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed Qianlan between his arms and pressed her down. You're injured. Qianlan reminded. You underestimate me. Emo Zichen's hands reached under the covers and removed her pajamas. But as his hands wandered across her body, he had no desire to kiss her, because the obstacle in his heart had not passed. So he helped Qianlan adjust her pajamas and rolled over to the side. My wound hurts. Qianlan's expression suddenly turned gloomy. Soon, Emo Zichen's even breathing drifted into her ears. But Qianlan stood up and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked out into the distance. She was about to leave for a mission, and she didn't know how long she would be gone for. It wasn't easy for Emo Zichen to finally open up to her. If he didn't see her for half a month, she didn't know how long it would take for him to fully open his heart. The military was holding a competition for new recruits. As an instructor, she naturally had to be present, so she had to leave at 5 a.m. After thinking for a while, Qianlan returned to the bedroom and knelt down beside Emo Zichen's bed. She looked at his sleeping face and gently touched his face. I'm sorry, Zichen. I know that no matter how many times I apologize, there's still a barrier in your heart that you can't get over. I don't know what you want and I don't know how to comfort you. I want to beg for your forgiveness, but I don't know where to start. I really don't know what to do. As soon as 5 a.m., I'll have to leave you again. This time, I might be gone for another week. You don't know how much I hope for a little response from you. Forget it, I asked for it, I don't blame you. I simply hope that you don't hold yourself back. After speaking, Qianlan got up and headed to the study room. She had no choice but to lie down beside Emo Zichen and suffer from insomnia for the entire night. In the dark, Emo Zichen opened his eyes and rolled around in discomfort. Silly woman, you're disturbing my sleep. Just before 5 a.m., Qianlan woke up to find a sandwich and half a glass of warm milk on the table. Qianlan was a little surprised. But when she realized who had done it, her heart was filled with joy. Did he hear what she said the night before? After eating breakfast, Qianlan placed the medicine that Emo Zichen wanted on the dining table and reminded him to apply it himself. When Emo Zichen woke up in the morning and saw the medicine, he rolled his eyes. If intelligence agents were to use this kind of low-grade medicine, I wonder how many times they would have died from the pain. After all, the medicine they used was specially made and couldn't be found on the market. But, even though he said this, he still held the medicine in his hand. What he said was completely different from what he thought. This time, Qianlan was gone for 10 days. During these 10 days, she did not contact anyone. Emo Zichen understood the nature of the military and knew that he wouldn't be able to reach her even if he called her. So he decided to ignore Qianlan. Although Qianlan hoped that Emo Zichen would look for her and contact her every day, it seemed, no matter how long she was gone, Emo Zichen had no interest in knowing where she was, what she was doing, or whether she was dead or alive. In Qianlan's hands was a photo of Emo Zichen. It was a photo that a friend of hers had given to her when they were introduced to each other at school. From the angle, it looked like it was taken secretly. Whenever she had free time, she would take it out and look at it. This action of hers had once been ridiculed by many of her comrades. Aren't you and the man that you've been yearning for together yet? We're together, Qianlan replied. Then why haven't you guys contacted each other? The woman asked nosily. That's right. Why haven't we contacted each other? Qianlan couldn't help but ask herself. I knew it was a one-sided love. He never agreed to be with you, right? Forget it. Focus on your mission. These new soldiers are all extremely mischievous. I don't have time to think about relationships. The woman patted her on the shoulder comfortingly. Qianlan smiled and put the photo away. That's right, it wasn't time to think about relationships at a time like this. The next morning, before Qianlan could even get out of bed, she heard someone report. Instructor, there's a problem. A few new soldiers have entered a restricted area. There are mines in there. Then what are you waiting for? Find them, hurry up and find them. Qianlan immediately stood up. These new soldiers were way too worrisome. Qianlan had no idea that on the surface, it looked like a simple training exercise, but it almost cost her her life. Chapter 1209. Helicopters, detectors and drones were deployed, but they couldn't find any traces of the recruits. Qianlan had no choice but to request permission to enter the restricted area and drag the recruits out. The higher-ups gave permission, but Qianlan was only allowed to go alone. Because a life was at stake, Qianlan did not hesitate. Instructor Qian, it's very dangerous. Are you sure you can do it? It's not a matter of whether I can or not. These rascals have cut off all signals and communication devices. There's no way to contact them, and we can't locate them. Apart from going in and looking for them, there's no other way, Qianlan said to her comrades. Qianlan said to her comrades as she prepared to enter the restricted area. I'll leave the rest to you guys. Be careful. Qianlan nodded her head and entered the restricted area on her own. Even if she got hurt, no one would care. So what was there to be afraid of? Meanwhile, the recruits all had someone they cared about. With this thought, Qianlan quickened her pace. The recruits were smart and had good anti-surveillance skills. But they were too reckless and dared to disobey a strict military order. Qianlan searched for traces of the recruits as she headed towards the center of the restricted area. Not long after, she heard the voices of the recruits in an abandoned factory. Qianlan immediately ran over to greet them. However, the recruits were so scared that tears began to fall from their eyes. Instructor, you're finally here. Tang Long stepped on a landmine. 2 men and 2 women were standing around Tang Long to help him maintain his balance. Qianlan pulled out a dagger and knelt down in front of the recruit. How long has it been? It's been half an hour. We don't dare to move around, and we don't know how to call for help. Everything I've taught you has gone to waste. Plus, who told you to disobey military orders? Qianlan helped the recruit maintain his balance as she pulled out a communication device to contact the outside world. Instructor Qian, we won't do it again. Qianlan humphed and stopped lecturing the recruits. Instead, she looked up at the recruit and said, Don't worry, it's not impossible to get rid of it, okay? I trust you, instructor. The recruit was so scared that he did not even dare to breathe in fear that the ground beneath him would explode. But at this time, one of the female recruits suddenly screamed. She felt like she had also stepped on a landmine. As a result, the recruit named Tang Long couldn't help but shrink back. Qianlan was shocked as she quickly protected the recruit and rolled out of the room. Everyone get down. It happened so suddenly that the explosion shocked the entire military region. By the time everything calmed down, the recruits noticed that Qianlan's back was covered in blood. Instructor Qian. Instructor Qian. However, Qianlan had already lost consciousness. Was she going to die? Would they never see Mo Zichen again? Qianlan didn't want to close her eyes, but she had no energy left. Mo Zichen waited for half a month, but there was still no news of Qianlan. It was at this time that he realized something was wrong. Logically speaking, Qianlan was supposed to be back in half a month at most. But half a month had passed and Qianlan was still nowhere to be seen. After some thought, Mo Zichen decided to give Qianlan a phone call. However, Qianlan's phone was left at the military base and was turned off. The more Mo Zichen thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. In the end, he made a phone call to the military. After waiting for quite some time, Mo Zichen finally received news that Qianlan was at the hospital. Mo Zichen immediately drove to the hospital with an indescribable feeling. He felt that even if he didn't forgive her and didn't want to talk to her, he couldn't let her get hurt. It didn't take long before Mo Zichen arrived at the hospital. At this time, the person visiting Qianlan's hospital room was her comrade. As soon as he saw Mo Zichen, he was a little surprised. Had the man in the photo appeared in real life? I am Qianlan's fiancé, Mo Zichen said. How is she? Qianlan told us not to contact her family no matter what, but she didn't give us your contact details, the comrade replied. A few days ago, she was injured by an explosion while trying to save a recruit. She's already had her third surgery on her back and is currently recovering. The anesthesia hasn't worn off yet, so she hasn't woken up yet. Is her injury serious? She almost lost her life, the comrade sighed. Since you're here, take a good look at her. I'll leave first. Mo Zichen nodded his head and looked at the woman lying on the hospital bed. She was lying on her stomach because her back was injured. At this moment, her face was pale and weak. After speaking, the comrade turned to leave. At this time, a few of the other comrades arrived at the door to visit Qianlan. Don't go in, her fiancé just arrived. When did Qianlan have a fiancé? The man in Qianlan's photo. The man that she's been missing for 5 years. The comrade's eyes widened as he sneaked a peek into the room. Let's come back another day. As Mo Zichen listened to the comrade's conversation, he gently closed the door. Perhaps because she sensed Mo Zichen's presence, Qianlan slowly opened her eyes. As soon as she saw the familiar face and body, she tried to sit up, but the pain made her tear up. Zichen. Don't move. Do you want your wound to open up? Mo Zichen quickly held her down. I thought you didn't care where I was or what I was doing. Although Qianlan didn't say these words aloud, Mo Zichen understood what she was trying to say. So he explained, I know what mission you're on. The red and blue battle between the new recruits will end in 2 weeks, and you won't be able to use your phone during this time. So, I won't be able to contact you. You know? There's nothing in Beijing that I can't find out, Mo Zichen replied. Since you've already guessed my identity, you shouldn't be curious about this. Qianlan fell silent as her heart warmed up a little. I thought I wasn't important anymore. I didn't say that out loud. How did you convince yourself to believe it? Mo Zichen wrung out a clean towel and squatted down to wipe Qianlan's face. Why would you rather die than contact your family? You know the reason, Qianlan replied. Although they've changed over the past few years. Why didn't you leave my contact details with your comrade? I thought you didn't want me to disturb you. Qianlan laughed in self-ridicule. As soon as the time was up, I naturally knew to look for you. Am I not here now? Qianlan nodded her head. She felt like she was dreaming. I thought, in your heart, I was the person that humiliated you 5 years ago. That's all. That's right, you're that person. But don't forget, you're my fiancé. I don't care what happens between us. You're mine, so I will take responsibility. Chapter 12:10. Was he just being responsible? Zichen. I feel like no matter what I do, you can't see me. No matter how anxious I am, I can never enter your heart. Qianlan lay weakly on the bed. But the pain she felt was nothing compared to Mo Zichen's cold words. Qianlan couldn't understand him. He gave her hope, yet he disappointed her at the same time. But when she was in despair, he would give her warmth again. This made Qianlan's heart feel tired. Let's sleep a little longer. The anesthesia has just worn off, it's going to hurt a lot. Go home. It'll hurt even more if you're here, Qianlan replied. As long as you know it hurts. Mo Zichen completely ignored her as he tidied up her things and helped her wipe her face. Qianlan didn't have the energy to argue with him, so she could only close her eyes helplessly. But with this man hovering in front of her, how could she possibly fall asleep? Soon, Qianlan's subordinates arrived at the hospital with guilty expressions on their faces. As soon as Mo Zichen saw them, he immediately asked, Come and see her in a bit. She's just fallen asleep. It's fine. Come in. Qianlan struggled to fall asleep. Since there were people here, she decided not to sleep anymore. The recruits approached Qianlan guiltily and bowed apologetically. Instructor Qian, we didn't do it on purpose. We didn't know something like this would happen. Please forgive us. I don't blame you, Qianlan replied. I also made mistakes when I was a recruit. Instructor Qian, we will be obedient from now on and never cause you any trouble again. Yes, Instructor Qian, I'm really sorry. If I was you, I would be asking for punishment instead of crying in front of Qianlan. Mo Zichen stood to one side and listened to their conversation. He was certain that these were the recruits that caused Qianlan to suffer such a serious injury. Every soldier should follow orders because a mistake can affect your life and the lives of your comrades. In fact, it can even decide the outcome of a battle. Since you've done something wrong, you should be punished. Qianlan has been in the military for 5 years and has not died on the battlefield. She has protected her country, yet she almost died in the hands of trash like you. Don't always use recruits as an excuse. You are all adults and need to take responsibility for your actions. Who are you? Why are you yelling at us? The soldiers were not happy with Mo Zichen's scolding, so they immediately questioned him. But just as they finished speaking, the recruit's body was thrown out of the room. No one saw Mo Zichen's actions clearly, not even Qianlan. I'm about to become Qianlan's husband. As soon as they heard it was Qianlan's husband, everyone was surprised. No wonder he was so angry. Still not going to apologize? We almost killed Instructor Qian. Isn't it normal for her husband to be angry? The group quickly bowed to Mo Zichen and disappeared from the room. Seeing this, Qianlan grinned. Usually, it takes a lot of effort for me to teach them a lesson. I never expected you to be so powerful. I'll go to the hospital kitchen and cook something for you, Zichen. Qianlan suddenly called out. Are you really willing to be my husband? It doesn't matter whether you're willing or not. Isn't it already like this? After speaking, Mo Zichen turned around and left the room. Qianlan smiled, but in the end, she ended up crying. For some reason, Mo Zichen always managed to make her feel extremely complicated. Even after nightfall, Mo Zichen was still sitting in the room. As soon as Qianlan saw him lying on the bed, she quickly woke him up. There's a nurse here. Go home and get some rest. Qianlan was worried that he might leave the room in the middle of the night. Go to sleep. I'll leave in a bit. Mo Zichen replied calmly. Actually, my body hurts a lot. I can't sleep, Qianlan said as she lay on the bed. Qianlan lay on the bed and shifted her body in discomfort. I can't move my body. It's already stiff. After hearing this, Mo Zichen pulled a chair over to sit in front of Qianlan and began massaging her muscles. Do you only treat me so well when I'm injured? So for the sake of me, you've decided to get injured all the time? Mo Zichen asked. I'll fight for it. Mo Zichen sighed as he put down Qianlan's stiff arms and covered her with a blanket. You have another surgery in a few days. But the injury on your back is too serious. It's bound to leave a scar. It's fine. After all, it complements your back. No one can catch up to how thick your skin is. Qianlan did not say a word. She simply tried to hold on to Mo Zichen's hand. At first, Mo Zichen wanted to pull his hand away, but Qianlan held on to it. Seeing this, he stopped struggling and let Qianlan hold on to his hand. Qianlan held on to Mo Zichen's hand and pressed her cheek against it, cherishing it. If my injury can get you to care for me, I'm willing to do it. After hearing this, Mo Zichen's heart was moved. After all, even though Qianlan broke up with him 5 years ago, she didn't betray him. Yet, she was already acting so submissive. What else did he want? 5 years later, his lover had returned to his side. Did he have to use this attitude to chase her away again? Mo Zichen did not move. He simply allowed Qianlan to hold onto his hand as he fell asleep. The next day, a few more soldiers came to visit Qianlan. It was at this time that everyone found out that the tigress Qianlan had such a handsome fiancé. However, she had never told anyone about it. Mo Zichen had classes during the day, so he would leave the hospital for a while and return after work. While he was gone, the caretakers would take care of him. When her best friend saw her, she couldn't help but ask about Qianlan's personal matters. Are the two of you sure you're together? How come I've never seen the two of you contact each other? We don't have a good relationship. What nonsense are you talking about? Everyone at the military base knows about how your husband taught those new soldiers a lesson. If that's not concern, then what is? If someone else was injured, would he be so angry? Did you know that one of the new soldiers broke his ribs? But his words are very cold, Qianlan said helplessly. I say, my instructor Qian, can you not be so shallow? Apart from judging a person's face, you should also look at their heart. Even outsiders can tell that they care about you. So, what's your interpretation? If I was your fiancé, I would definitely be angered to death by you. By the way, your fiancé is really handsome. Really? Was that care? Qianlan couldn't help but ask herself. Indeed, when Mo Zichen did what he did he only feel hatred towards her? Chapter 12:11. That night, Mo Zichen arrived at the hospital with a bowl of chicken soup. Seeing that Qianlan's comrades were all there, he did not immediately enter the room. Instead, he waited patiently outside the door. Qianlan, I've pursued you for so many years, but you've always rejected me. You've always said that you have a boyfriend. I thought you were just using this as an excuse, but it turned out to be true. Rascal, have you finally given up? Mo Zichen didn't hear anything else from outside the door, but he heard these two sentences clearly. In fact, he even looked over to see who the man was and etched his face deep into his mind. Soon, Mo Zichen's comrades came out of the hospital room. As soon as they saw Mo Zichen, they were a little surprised and a little embarrassed. It seemed this man heard everything they said. Let's go. We have a mission to complete later. After Mo Zichen's comrades left the room, he returned with the bowl of chicken soup and placed it on Qianlan's bedside table. Just now I heard what they said, Yi Zichen said. Huh. Qianlan was a little surprised, but she quickly reacted. Are you talking about comrades joking? At least you know what's good for you. After saying this, Mo Zichen finally sat down in front of Qianlan and placed the bowl of chicken soup in front of her mouth. Everyone knows that I have an old friend in my heart, Qianlan explained as she took a sip of soup. It's been 5 years, but I've been looking at the same photo. From now on you don't need to look at photos anymore, Mo Zichen reminded. That photo was once my pillar of support. Qianlan smiled as she drank the soup and quickly fell asleep. At this time, Mo Zichen finally noticed a photo of him in the notebook under her pillow. Perhaps it was because she had taken it out too many times that the two corners of the photo were covered in fingerprints. If she really felt that way, why didn't she come out to look for him when she was still at the military? After putting the photo back in its original position, Mo Zichen tilted his head and looked at Qianlan. She lay quietly on the bed with her back covered in stitches. Afterwards, Mo Zichen sat down on a chair and began to recall how he had spent the past 5 years. In the beginning, it wasn't that he didn't wait for her. Tongning had told him that this woman really liked him, and that she was willing to go to the army on her own for him. She was eager to grow and had a future with him. At that time, Mo Zichen believed her. So he waited for an entire year, and even secretly visited Qianlan at the military base. But apart from appearing happy, the silly woman had no intention of leaving the base to look for him. Then he waited for the 2nd year, but it was still the same. Even the 3rd year, the 4th year, the 5th year. Mo Zichen waited for so long as he walked step by step towards disappointment. But just as he decided not to wait any longer, Qianlan finally appeared. However, his heart had already turned cold. Just like that, Mo Zichen sat in his chair until midnight, waiting for Qianlan to wake up. As he watched Qianlan open her eyes, he finally asked the question he wanted to know the most. Since you've been looking at my photos for so many years, why didn't you come out and look for me? As soon as Qianlan heard this question, her expression changed. No normal person would be able to wait for 5 years. What makes you think that I would wait for you? Qianlan, why can't I get over this hurdle in my heart? It's because after you gave up on our relationship, you obviously had the chance to make up for it. But you ignored me for 5 years and tried to get back together with me as soon as you came out. What makes you think that I would agree to that? Qianlan couldn't say a word. All she could see were tears rolling down her cheeks. If you can give me a reasonable explanation, I can forgive you. Qianlan opened her mouth, but she couldn't find the words to explain herself. You can't explain yourself? Qianlan shook her head and said desperately, how do you know that I didn't look for you? I did look for you, Qianlan said as she sobbed. After training ended, I went back to school, but you were no longer there. I heard that you moved, so I waited outside your house for an entire night. But all I saw was a young woman walking out of your house. So I went back to the army. I had a high fever for 3 days. Because I walked back. When I retired from the army, I went to look for you, but that time, I waited at your house for 3 days and 3 nights, but I didn't see you, so I left you a note. In the past 5 years, I've gone to look for you 3 times. The last time was not long ago, when I found out you were still single. That gave me hope, but also despair. You've changed so much. I think you probably don't even remember who I am. Plus, my mother is seriously ill, so You've looked for him before? Mo Zichen didn't believe it. You moved out of school and moved to 224, Shengquan Road, room 104. After that, you moved to Sky Sun Apartments, 702. After hearing Qianlan's words, Mo Zichen reacted. Why didn't you knock on the 105? You're in 105? I'm at 105. Mo Zichen nodded his head. Afterwards, I didn't move into the Tianyang residence. I bought it for a friend. So, how could you have waited for me? I see. Qianlan was already covered in tears. I've tried to look for you over and over again, but I've come back empty-handed 3 times. I'm sorry. Mo Zichen apologized this time. I thought you came and went as you pleased. After new recruit training ended, I immediately went to look for you, but I couldn't find you. I was almost mistaken as a deserter, and was locked up in a dark room for 7 days. I even fell sick. From the first day I entered the new recruit training camp, I already regretted it. I wanted to look for you, but I didn't want you to look down on me. Zichen, I really didn't do it on purpose. After hearing Qianlan's words, Mo Zichen patted her on the head. Forget it. As long as you say that you looked for me, I'll let it go. I believe you. I really did look for you. I did look for you. Every time I went to look for you, I returned disappointed and it took me a long time to recover. Every time, I gathered the courage to look for you again, but Mo Zichen did not allow her to speak again. Instead, he covered her mouth to calm her down. Don't cry, your wounds will reopen. Zichen, I'll stay here and I won't leave. Even if you can't explain yourself today, I won't leave. At most, I'll just be angry. After my anger subsides, I'll still stay by your side, Mo Zichen said in resignation. Chapter 12:12. Qianlan held onto Mo Zichen's hand tightly. It turned out, there were so many misunderstandings between them. She couldn't imagine that if it weren't for this move, perhaps they would have missed each other forever. That night, Qianlan cried for a long time. By the time she fell asleep, it was already dawn. As usual, Mo Zichen helped Qianlan wash her face. But a moment later, a commotion could be heard outside the hospital room. Mo Zichen stood up and walked outside to find that the Qian family had found their way to the hospital and wanted to see Qianlan. In Mo Zichen's impression, this family despised the poor and loved the rich. They were like vampires controlling their daughter. It was especially obvious when Father Qian was the mayor. However, for years ago, he was pulled down from his position, and this family could only give up. Mo Zichen didn't know if the others had changed, but Mother Thousand had definitely changed. After being seriously ill, Mother Qian had already come to terms with a lot of things. But at this moment, Mo Zichen only saw Mother Qian. Seeing that Mo Zichen was taking care of Qianlan, Mother Qian felt a lot more at ease. So she pulled Mo Zichen aside and said, Auntie has wronged you in the past. Zichen, you must forgive Auntie. Auntie, it's not that serious. Yes, it's that serious. Mother Qian suddenly burst into tears. After you get together with Qianlan, don't come into contact with anyone else in the Qian family. Otherwise, you can join the army. Mo Zichen had no idea what Mother Thousand meant. You might not know this, but after the Qian family was defeated 4 years ago, our entire family migrated because we were afraid of being expelled. But because he had no money, Su Chuanhao divorced Qian Hui and abandoned her. Afterwards, Qian Lan's father began to gamble again, and spent his days daydreaming about making a comeback. He hasn't come to look for you yet because you haven't officially married him yet. He doesn't want to lose you, a fat piece of meat in his mouth. Listen to me, don't let Qian Lan's father find you. Didn't Qian Lan join the army to escape from her family? I hope she never has to see her father again. Besides, having a father who likes gambling will affect your reputation. After hearing this, Mo Zichen did not say a word. He simply handed her a tissue. It seemed like the Qian family had also suffered a lot of hardship and torture these few years. Then your illness. Speaking of her illness, Mother Qian let out a bitter laugh. There's no cure for my illness, so I don't want to waste medical resources. Now that Qian Lan has found a home, I can finally relax. Even if I have to close my eyes right now, there's nothing to regret. I'm just wondering why I stopped you two from being together back then. Qian Lan's life over the past few years has been tough. Zichen, don't blame her. Don't blame us either. Seeing the tears in Mother Qian's eyes, Mo Zichen shook his head. It's all in the past. I will always be with Qian Lan. I will protect her and take care of her. Don't worry, Auntie. With these words, I no longer have any regrets. I simply came to see Qian Lan today. I received a phone call from the hospital, so I snuck in without anyone knowing. Although Qian Lan told them not to tell anyone from the Qian family, the hospital still had the obligation to notify the patient's family. Now that I've seen Qian Lan, I'm relieved that you're here. I'll be leaving now. After speaking, Mother Qian stood up, but Mo Zichen held her back. Aren't you going to wait for her to wake up? If she wakes up and sees her, it'll just be a burden. Forget it. Mother Qian shook her head and left the room. It turned out, after the Qian family immigrated, there were so many stories behind them. Qian Hui got a divorce, Father Qian fell into a gambling trap, and Mother Qian fell seriously ill. So, they placed all their hopes on Qian Lan. After all, Qian Lan had grown up and they had gotten back together. Perhaps, this gave the Qian family hope, and was the reason why Mother Qian came. Mo Zichen looked at Qian Lan, at the woman who had her blood sucked from her since she was a child. He felt a little upset. After all, there weren't many mothers in this world that were as understanding and respectful as Tongning. Soon Qian Lan woke up. Mo Zichen poured some hot water for her to wash her face and said, "Your mother came." "Where is she?" "She left," Mo Zichen replied. "She told us not to come into contact with anyone from the Qian family, whether it's your sister or your father." Qian Lan laughed but did not say a word. Family isn't something that we can choose. No matter if that person is good or bad, I need to accept them from the bottom of my heart. After hearing Mo Zichen's words, Qian Lan laughed. "Your words haven't comforted me. What I'm trying to say is leave everything to me from now on. Why can't you leave it to me? You ran away 5 years ago. Are you going to run away again 5 years later?" Qian Lan shook her head. With this thought, she was filled with regret. "I'm just worried that you'll get hurt. As long as you don't hurt me, no one can make me feel sad," Mo Zichen said as he held onto Qian Lan's shoulder. "Can you move a little?" Qian Lan moved a little. After realizing that it wasn't as painful as she thought, she tried to sit up. Mo Zichen hugged her and helped her up. I want to go to the bathroom." "I'll carry you," Mo Zichen offered. Seeing that Qian Lan didn't move, he added, "We're already living together, are you still shy?" At this moment, Qian Lan did not say a word, but her face turned red. Mo Zichen ignored her as he carried her in his arms and carried her into the bathroom. "I've lost my image as a girl," Qian Lan complained. "I still want to be perfect in front of you." "When have you ever been imperfect in front of me? Why would you care about your image?" Mo Zichen helped her remove her pants. "From now on, don't take a bullet for someone else without thinking. You're also a married person." "I am a married person." "Yes, that's me," Mo Zichen replied firmly. Turn around. I can't go to the bathroom with you here, Qianlan said awkwardly. Mo Zichen nodded his head, turned around and walked out of the bathroom. It was only after Qianlan called out to him that he re-entered the bathroom. After you recover from your surgery, don't do any more surgery for now. I know an expert in this field. When the time comes, I'll ask an expert to come to China to treat you. After all, soldiers couldn't leave the country. I'll leave it to you. At that moment, Qianlan simply wanted to enjoy the happiness of having Mo Zichen by her side. She would listen to whatever he said. Then it's decided. Zichen. Qianlan called out gently as she looked at Mo Zichen. I'm not dreaming, right? I don't think this is real. The cold you from 2 days ago, and the passionate you right now. Which one is real? Chapter 12-13. Meanwhile, at Hyatt Regency, suddenly, Tongning received a phone call from her son asking her to contact an American dermatologist. Her future daughter-in-law was injured. As soon as Tongning heard this, she took it to heart. She told Lu Che to contact the man and invite him over if possible. Tongning had always known about the existence of this woman. Over the past 5 years, she had always been in her son's heart. But she wasn't sure if this future daughter-in-law was the same person from 5 years ago. After staying in the hospital for an entire day, Mo Zichen returned to Hyatt Regency exhausted. But he couldn't care less about resting. He simply wanted to return home and tell his mother the good news. Mom, you're about to have a daughter-in-law. The one from 5 years ago? She had faith in Mo Zichen. In this aspect, he had inherited her and Mo Ting's love. Plus, over the years, her son had been depressed, so she knew that woman had always been in Mo Zichen's heart. Yes. Mo Zichen nodded his head. Over the past 5 years, I've misunderstood her too many times. Last night, we finally resolved everything. Have you decided to get married? Tongning asked. It might be a little troublesome. She's a soldier. Our family is fated with soldiers. It's one thing for your brother to be a soldier, but now even your daughter-in-law is a soldier. Your second son is the deputy director of the Intelligence Bureau. Of course, Mo Zichen hid these words in his heart and did not say them out loud. But no matter what, I'm happy that my son has returned to how he was before. Tongning stretched out her arms and hugged Mo Zichen. But mommy, there's something I need to trouble you with. Mo Zichen thought, perhaps it would be easier for Tongning to deal with the Qian family. After all, after so many years, it was rare for anyone to defeat his mother. Trouble. Tongning immediately guessed Mo Zichen's predicament. So, Mo Zichen spent some time explaining the Qian family's situation to Tongning. Mother Qian wasn't a big deal, but Father Qian and Qian Hui needed to be careful. After hearing this, Tongning nodded her head. Don't worry, leave it to your mommy. It's not a difficult task, it's just a matter of money. What he was afraid of was that the Qian clan's greed was insatiable. But this was never a problem for Tongning, especially when dealing with greedy people. That evening, Tongning listened to Mo Zichen talk about what happened between him and Qianlan. He talked about how they had been apart for 5 years and how tormented they were after reuniting. Thinking about the pain her son had suffered over the past 5 years, she wanted to give him all the love in the world. Unlike Mo Zichen didn't like to make friends. From the looks of it, he was a solitary animal. While Mo Zichi had his comrades by his side, Mo Zichen only had himself. His intelligent mind was destined to be different from others. So Tongning was more worried about her son. Now that her son had finally found his life partner, she couldn't let him down. So, she was going to help him resolve the Qian family's matter. That night, as they lay in bed, Tongning leaned against her husband's chest and told him about Mo Zichen's return. My son has never come to me so excitedly. It's all because he wants to marry the girl he likes. Your son is as devoted as you. It's just that it took 5 years for our relationship to blossom and bear fruit. Ting, did you know? Zichen has never revealed his emotions in front of us. But this time, he smiled and he smiled very happily. Mo Ting tightened his arms around Tongning. He knew that Tongning had been worried about Mo Zichen, so he placed a kiss on her forehead. Rascal, you're finally getting married. Seeing Tongning worry about him every day, Emo Ting had wanted to beat her son up for a long time. Even though he was no match for Emo Zichen at the moment. Tongning simply guessed that Emo Zichen had a dangerous identity, but she had no idea what it was. Meanwhile, Emo Ting was well aware of his son's current position. 5 years ago, he was a secret agent of the intelligence agency. 5 years later, he was the deputy director of the intelligence agency. He was skilled and had already accumulated a lot of military merits. Ting, if I visit my daughter-in-law tomorrow, will it be too sudden? As long as you want it to be, nothing will be sudden. After hearing this, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. It seemed in Emo Ting's heart, everything she did was right, and she would never be wrong. After being married for so many years, she was well aware of how much Emo Ting doted on her. In that case, I'll go to the hospital tomorrow. Do you want to come? I'll get Lu Che to take you there. We need to plan ahead of time, otherwise, it will cause a commotion. After all, Tongning was the mother of sci-fi in the country. Over the years, her influence had always been there. Plus, the couple had always released a sci-fi film every 2 years. Even now, this was a tradition that had not changed. So, she had to keep her whereabouts a secret. Qianlong must have never imagined that her future mother-in-law, Tongning, would come straight to the hospital. After lying in the hospital for too long, there were serious side effects. So, as soon as Qianlong was able to get out of bed, she immediately wanted to go for a walk. Emo Zichen couldn't dissuade her, so he borrowed a wheelchair and took her for a stroll in the garden. When can I be discharged from the hospital? At least not now, Emo Zichen replied. I already told my mother about the Qian family last night. Are you talking about Tongning? Tongning? Qianlong was still excited when she heard Tongning's name. She's your future mother-in-law. You're not allowed to call her by her name. Emo Zichen immediately corrected. I'm just excited. Don't underestimate the strict security at the military base. Whenever everyone has free time, they pull out their phones and secretly watch sci-fi films. Qianlong laughed. Qianlong smiled. Me too. That's the only way I feel like we're still connected. Everyone likes Auntie Tang. The couple chatted for about an hour before they returned to Qianlan's room. At this time, Emo Zichen noticed the bodyguards outside Qianlan's room. Emo Zichen knew who they were, and had a guess as to why they were here. But when he entered the room and saw the elegant figure standing in the middle of the room, he asked helplessly, Mom, why are you here? You didn't give me any time to prepare myself. I simply wanted to sneak a look at my future daughter-in-law. That's not too much, is it? I just want to be a cute mother-in-law. Tongning smiled as she looked at her son. She then formally introduced herself to Qianlong. Qianlong, I am Zichen's mother. Qianlong almost fainted when she saw Tongning in person. I'm a little excited. There's no need for that. My mom doesn't eat people. No, I need to get Auntie to give me an autograph first. Qianlong grabbed onto the opportunity. You have no idea how many people in the military base like Auntie's work. If you marry my son, I'll give you an autograph, Tongning said with a youthful attitude. Do you think this is a good deal? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.